The family's visit to the forest inspired a beautiful question. Mother, mother, am I a tree? You tell me to stand tall. You tell me to stay rooted. I think I am a tree. My child, of course you are. But what kind of tree will you be? The kind to hug or the kind to climb? Doesn't matter which you choose, so long as you choose to be a tree that's kind.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Your morning news, presented by Chevrolet and your local Chevy dealers.
Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Georgia Broman.
And I'm Roy DeJesus. This is your Spectrum News in 90. Nicole made landfall just south of Vero Beach this morning, making history as the latest in a calendar year a hurricane has ever struck Florida's Atlantic coast. Now a tropical storm, Nicole also became the first hurricane to make landfall in November in the U.S. in nearly 40 years.
Schools in all of our Bay Area counties are closed today. Hillsborough, Polk, Manatee, Hernando, and Citrus counties will remain closed on Friday for Veterans Day, but Pasco and Pinellas schools, they will reopen on Friday.
Theme parks around Florida are also closed today. Busch Gardens, Disney World, Universal, and SeaWorld are closed this morning as Nicole continues on its path across the state. Disney and Universal both plan to reopen later this afternoon. Busch Gardens and SeaWorld will welcome guests back tomorrow.
Those are just a few of the angles of Tropical Storm Nicole that we're covering for you. We want to get right over to the Weather Center to get your Question 9 forecast live with Chief Meteorologist Mike Clay. And Mike, we're seeing more heavy rain, more heavy wind coming to the Bay Area.
Yeah, this is about the worst Nicole has to offer for the Tampa Bay area right now in the next hour or so. And on Question 9, we can see the center is moving along pretty quickly. So this is not going to be an all-day event. Luckily, it's moving. It looks to us like the center is on the north side of Lakeland right now. The center is right about in here. It's moving along at about 14 miles an hour. And so on this west side, that's where most of the bad weather is. And it's just torrential rain and gusty wind right now around Pinellas County and Hillsborough County and back up towards Zephyr Hills. Look at that. All of Pinellas County is covered with moderate to heavy rain. And that heavier band extends from Madeira Beach across the Skyway back down towards Bradenton right now. Kyle's here with some of these wind gusts that we're getting out there, and it's going to be like this for a while longer until the center moves on by, Kyle.
Yeah, you know, Mike, these wind gusts are fairly spread out as well. We're seeing gusts generally close to over 50 miles an hour in some spots. You can see recently at MacDill, 45-mile-an-hour gust. Now at St. Pete, 40. But at St. Pete Clearwater International, we had a gust of 62 miles an hour a bit earlier. Brooksville gusting to 52. Bradenton gusting to 43 right now. But look at Polk County. As we start to see that weaker side move in, again, that centers in northwestern Polk. It's pulling away. Still fairly windy out there, but that's where we're actually starting to see some of those wind gusts come down. The rain is also moving out as well. You can see 1.5 inches of rain so far today in Winter Haven, just over an inch in Lake Wales. And then northeastern Polk, we had one spot with about 3 inches of rain. Still under an inch in most spots around Hillsborough and Pinellas County, but I do expect more to come through the day today. I'm going to show you that on our latest forecast model and show you when we'll start to see Nicole push on out of here. That's all coming up in under 10 minutes. Time now, 8:03, and a check of your real-time traffic with Tim Ronca. Tim, how are the conditions on the roads because of Nicole?
Good morning again, Roy and Georgia. Yes, so we're looking pretty bad out there in terms of just not good conditions on the roads. And as you heard Mike and Kyle just talk about, we're sort of seeing the worst of those conditions right now. Here's a look at an example of that. We're looking at 75 northbound, just over the Manatee County line here in Hillsborough County. And we got a pretty involved crash here involving a semi, one of a few I've seen on the interstates here today. And just one lane is slowly getting by there. And of course, you can see the wind is shaking the camera around a little bit. And we're also seeing a lot of rain in the area as well. So that's just an example of what we're seeing out there right now. Of course, the other big traffic story is the closure of the Skyway Bridge. And here's a live look at the Skyway Bridge. You just saw on our Klystron 9 radar all that rain going through the area. You can see that here. If you look closely, you can even see some of the rain being picked up off of the roadway there. So a lot of rain moving through there. They shut it down. We just had FHP on because of sustained wind of 50 miles per hour at the top of the bridge. Unclear as to when it might reopen, but it's going to be sometime this morning until that happens. Georgia, Roy, back over to you.
Time now 8:04. We have team coverage for you all morning of Tropical Storm Nicole. Our weather experts tracking where the storm is headed. We also have Jason Lanning out in Polk County monitoring conditions there, and our Angie Andrews is at a staging site for power crews waiting to respond to the power outages we're seeing right now.
Yeah, Nicole made landfall just south of Vero Beach earlier this morning as a low-level Category 1 hurricane. And now this morning, the tropical storm is lashing Florida as a heavy rainmaker with winds around 70 miles an hour. Let's go to Polk County, where Spectrum Bay News 9's Jason Lanning joins us live in Lakeland. Jason, conditions there, very rainy, windy. How's it now?
Right. Well, the good news is things are improving just a little bit, as you just heard our meteorologist talk about all of the rain bands now well west of Lakeland. So we've probably seen the worst of the winds. Here in Lakeland, we saw wind gusts of around 36 miles an hour, according to local weather stations here in the area. But Winter Haven saw a wind gust earlier of 51 miles an hour, and Bartow saw a wind gust of 61 miles an hour. The big story here for the rest of the day is going to be how much is it going to rain? Right now, local weather stations reporting about 2.2 inches of rainfall. So we are keeping a close watch on any potential for localized pockets of flooding in those high flood-prone areas. And we want to take you out into the neighborhoods of Lakeland overnight as Nicole pushed in. And the question of the day here is it too early for a Christmas tree or too late for a tropical storm? Regardless of your answer to that question, we can tell you it is a very weird day here across Central Florida with a tropical storm this late in the season. We had a chance to talk with resident Nicole Harrison about what she and her husband experienced as Nicole pushed in very early this morning.
Basically, the lights were flickering on and off, and then after that, it was just it just blew. You just see one go, and then next thing you know, you see another one go. And I was like, oh, that's not good.
Right, not good, because whenever you're in a storm and the lights start flickering, it's just a matter of time before you may see a power outage. The good news, though, right now, only 150 people without power here in the Lakeland area. That number was as high as 300, but it does appear power restorations are active right now here in Lakeland, and we have noticed emergency workers, fire rescue running normal calls for the day, police officers out and about. So again, it looks like the worst of the wind may be over for us in Lakeland, but rain, we'll have to keep a close watch on it here into the late morning hours. Guys, back to you.
All right, Jason, thank you. And of course, power outages, another thing that we're watching right now. And as this storm moves through, we are starting to see places lose power across the state. Yeah,
Duke Energy already reporting more than 70,000 outages statewide. Thousands of residents in Pinellas County are also without electricity. Let's go live with Spectrum Bay News 9's Angie Andrews outside Tropicana Field, where Duke Energy is in position to restore power as soon as weather conditions are safe. Angie?
Yeah, Roy and Georgia, I have to say, gusty winds is an understatement. They really come in these big, hard bands, and you get a couple minutes where it's not so bad out here. So please keep that in mind if you are needing to travel for any reason this morning. But when it comes to power outages, of course, that causes a problem as well, because these crews here at Tropicana Field that have been staged, they can't get out there until that wind starts to calm down a little bit. And we are at more than 70,000 power outages at this hour when it comes to Duke Energy. Now, here at Tropicana Field, this is one of 5 staging sites around the entire state. We have crews that came in pretty similar to what we saw during Hurricane Ian from South Carolina and from the Midwest. But I am joined live this morning by Bill Norton. He's here with Duke Energy. Now, Bill, I know we're kind of in a holding pattern. We've seen these guys get in and out of their trucks. What is it exactly we're waiting for at this time?
You know, we got meteorologists watching the wind right now, trying to see when it's going to be safe. I mean, if you think about those buckets up in the air, it's pretty clear why you can't put a man up in the air and operate in these conditions.
And I know a lot of people wonder, hey, will you get to my house first? What houses are you going to first? How do you guys make those decisions when it comes time to make those repairs?
You know, the priority is to get emergency services back on, hospitals, fire crews. We also hit if we have transmission outages or substations that, restore power to the large number of customers first, we'll hit that first and then I'll work our way down the line to smaller ones.
Awesome, and I know at last check for us, at least, we're at over 70,000 power outages for Duke Energy, and of course many of those on the East Coast. What areas here are you seeing hit the worst right now?
Yeah, this morning at 5:30 we only had like 30,000 outages, but as the winds have moved from the east over here and that's climbed, we're now at about 83,000 in the state. Orange County is the worst at the moment, so yeah, it's working its way east to west, and the numbers will keep climbing before they go down.
Thank you so much, Bill. We really appreciate it. As you can tell, certainly a lot of crews that are ready here as soon as the time comes and those winds go down so they can get out there. And, of course, we'll be checking in live with you all morning long. Roy, Georgia.
All right, Angie, thank you. They're in place. They're ready to do the work as soon as it is safe for them to do so.
Time now, 8:09, and a check of your weather on the nines. But first, take a look at our rooftop cam here at Carillon in St. Pete, where we can see some rain and windy conditions. Not too much rain with this shot, but you can definitely see that that camera is moving because of the wind. Meteorologists Mike Clay and Kyle Hansen in the Weather Center. Mike, tell us, my question is, as this storm gets closer to the Gulf, we saw the conditions in the East Coast pushing that surge in. What would it be like later on today when the storm gets over there?
Well, the good news is that it will be weakening, and there won't be a large fetch, as it has a lot of time to push water on the coast. But yeah, we're going to see elevated water levels. Nothing like a major storm surge event, but we're already seeing some elevated water levels right now up and down our coast. So that's something we'll be monitoring. Also, the good news is Nicole will be going out over those cooler waters in the Gulf of Mexico right now. It is November after all. So let's check out our camera here. This is on top of the Klystron 9 radar tower, and you can see how the weather is pretty nasty across Pinellas County right now. And we'll go to Bradenton. We're seeing some elevated water levels here on the river, downtown Bradenton camera. You can see it's really rough out there, and there's not many people going over the bridge right now. Klystron 9 shows the big picture, and the center of circulation of Nicole appears to be on the north side of Lakeland right now. That's where the center is. So the winds are doing this, wrapping around, then they're coming back around on the backside like so. There is some drying here in eastern Polk County, and that's some good news because they got a lot of rain earlier, but by far the heaviest rain is moving through Pinellas County right now, down to Tierra Verde and across the Skyway. Very heavy rain coming in across parts of Hillsborough County as well. And Kyle is here with more on the forecast as Nicole continues to move across the area. Kyle, your first tropical storm with us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a cloudy start to the day. You can see right now at Cocoa Beach. This is, of course, on the East Coast where they've been dealing with the rain overnight last night, starting to clear out a bit there. You can see Pine Island a little bit closer to home here with our Get Justice, or our Ruth Law Firm camera there at Pine Island. So certainly we are seeing some deteriorating conditions as you go west of the center here. You can see, again, the center of that storm moving west of Polk County now. Basically Lakeland, the only spot seeing a heavy band of rain over there in Polk County. Rainfall today, though, so far, most of it has been in Polk County. Winter Haven, about 1.5 inches of rain. Lake Wales, just a little bit over 1 inch of rain. And you can see back towards Pinellas and Hillsborough County, still underneath 1 inch. But, when we get some updates here, likely going to see that ramp up a bit. Zephyr Hills, around 1.5 inches of rain so far. We do have an isolated report of 3 inches, by the way, of rain for so far today in northeastern Polk County. The wind, that of course has been the story. They've started to ramp up quite a bit here over the past couple of hours. The current wind gust in Tampa is at 52, Lakeland 37, 52 the current wind gust in Brooksville out of the north, and out of the northwest currently in Clearwater sustained at 37 miles an hour, so just shy of officially a tropical storm, which again you have to have sustained winds of 39 miles an hour for tropical storm force conditions. Right now, the latest on the advisory for Nicole, again, winds have gone down a little bit since earlier, now down to 60 miles an hour. I think for us, we could see occasionally some gusts near or above 60. And when Nicole moves a little bit out more towards the Gulf, it is possible that we could see a little bit of that water level rise across coastal Pasco and north towards coastal Citrus County. I'd say 3 foot of surge more likely on the range here, but perhaps 4 or even close to 5 in some spots. But I think the good news is that the worst of that onshore wind is actually going to be timed with the low tide tonight, and then some minor coastal flooding possible for coastal Pinellas, Hillsborough, Manatee County. Probably 1 or 2 feet of water level rise there. And again, in terms of those high tides, by early afternoon, we're looking at high tide in Crystal River, Bayport, Hudson. You can see it's around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Same thing with Tarpon Springs and Clearwater Beach. In fact, Clearwater, that's the only spot we're seeing really above normal or above predicted tide levels, around 9 inches above what the forecast was, because you have more of a northwest component to that wind. But again, low tide will be later this evening. You can see around noontime today that the center of the storm is just getting out into the Gulf. We're really not going to see too much of an onshore wind except in Pinellas County and maybe Pasco County at that time. Rain also starts to become a little bit more intermittent as we head toward midday and afternoon, but it still could come down heavy in a few spots. And then again, afternoon high tide, this is when we could see a little bit of coastal flooding here with that onshore wind out of the southwest. And as we head into the night tonight, again, around 7, 8 o'clock is when we'll actually hit low tide. And that would be the best time to see some coastal flooding, because we would actually have that out over the Gulf for several hours and several hours of an onshore wind here. But again, that will coincide with the low tide. In terms of rain, we're still going to be watching a few bands of perhaps some moderate to heavy rain at times for tonight. But again, you will notice compared to this morning, this is going to be more of an off and on variety here. And then as we head into the day on Friday, early Friday morning, still a few leftover showers here, still breezy, but that wind starts to come down here. And overall, a great improvement for Friday, even some breaks of sunshine here and there. It's about, 30% chance of rain as we head toward midday and afternoon on Friday. So certainly a significant improvement as we head into tomorrow. For today, of course, decreasing showers as we head into the afternoon. The worst of the weather is between now and midday. Again, wind gusts occasionally up to 50, 55, even 60 miles an hour in a few spots. And then tonight, turning to scattered showers and breezy at times out there. And as we head into Friday, again, scattered showers and breezy. Temperatures are going to be in the lower 80s, perhaps even some breaks of sunshine. But I'll show you when we'll see some cooler weather return well behind this system coming up here in about the next 10 minutes. In the meantime, though, I do want to toss it over to Tim Ronca in the traffic center. He's got a live update of what's going on the roads. What are you seeing out there, Tim?
Hey, good morning again, Kyle. Yeah, a lot of delays out there, but not due to traffic, due to some crashes, due to some rain, due to some wind, and just generally not great conditions out there. Good morning again, everyone. So we're looking here live at 75 in South Hillsborough County. This is on the northbound side, just over the Hillsborough-Manatee County line. We have a crash here involving a semi, it appears, and we just have one lane getting by. So keep that in mind if you are heading out in that direction. The other thing you want to keep in mind is just take a look at what this looks like right now. Low visibility, camera shaking around in the wind there a little bit, and that's what we're seeing all over our area right now. Going over to our real-time traffic maps, I put the radar over the maps too, so you can see where we're seeing a lot of our rain right now. And as Kyle and Mike were just showing you, a lot of that's going to be in Pinellas County right now. It's just all covered in that yellow there. That would indicate some of that rain coming through. Here's a good example of that. This is the Skyway Bridge just south of Pinellas County. The Skyway Bridge is closed right now. It was shut down just before 7 o'clock, and you can see that we are still seeing a lot of just really kind of crazy conditions on there in terms of all that water coming up off the road, a lot of rain, wind, and 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts going through there, which is why they shut it down. We'll have an update on how things are looking for you coming up in a few minutes.
To the point already.
This is a message from the Secret Service.
SMS texting, also known as smishing, is a tactic used to steal financial information, elicit funds, or install malware on smartphones. To protect yourself, never respond to a text or click a link from an unknown source. Never share personal or financial information. Delete text messages from unknown sources. The government will never solicit personal information via text. To learn more, visit us online. From all of us at the Secret Service, be vigilant and stay safe.
This place that I call. I want to explain it to her.
When you're given a childhood cancer diagnosis, hope is lacking. But coming to St. Jude, they were my foundation for getting my hope back. So we have to continue funding St. Jude, because if it weren't for the donors, my daughter may not have made it to her second birthday. Now she can show everybody else what true strength is.
We believe in patriotism. We believe in our nation's youth. We believe veterans earn their benefits through their service to our nation. We believe in a strong national security. We believe in our country. For 100 years, veterans have been impacting our nation through the American Legion, and we believe it makes a difference. If you believe, learn more at legion.org/webelieve.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful when Mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. I wanted a better relationship with Dad, so I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
This place that I call. Everyone explain it to her that I do every
Spectrum Bay News 9 is brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Our coverage of Tropical Storm Nicole continues at 8:20. Thanks for staying with us here on Spectrum Bay News 9. That storm continues to bring heavy rains all across the state of Florida. And the issue is a lot of progress had been made at St. Johns River in central Florida, but that's been undone now because of this storm.
Yeah, and Hurricane Ian caused catastrophic flooding around many cities. The river surrounds, including Sanford. That's where Spectrum Bay News 9's Jesse Canales joins us live from Lake Monroe. And Jesse, we've been following this area all morning long, and reports show the St. Johns River water levels near Sanford are rising again. We see Lake Monroe behind you.
That's right. According to our weather experts right now, the water at the St. Johns River is about 7 feet. What that means? Well, you can take a look exactly what that means. That means the water from Lake Monroe will go over the seawall into the grassy area. And you can see the damage it's done to the vegetation, causing lots of debris along the roads, along the walkways. And another thing it also means is one of the busiest roads on Orlando Metropolitan, Cimarron Boulevard, could start seeing water encroach it. And according to our weather experts, the water will reach about 7.7 feet at the St. Johns River, meaning it would have gone a whole foot up since the start of the week because of this storm. And at 7.7 feet, well, secondary roads will become impassable and become flooded here on Lake Monroe. We'll continue to monitor the situation here in Sanford. For now, reporting live in Seminole County, Jessica Canales, Spectrum Bay News 9.
Thanks, Jesse. And as we were reporting throughout the month of October, whenever the St. Johns River would crest, and it happened several times after Ian passed, now having to deal with more rain because of Nicole, it's just not a great situation over there.
Yeah, experts don't predict it to be as bad, nearly as bad, but still any kind of flooding, not a good situation there. Right now, we want to head back over live to our weather center, check back in with Chief Meteorologist Mike Clay with the latest. And Mike, it just shows that live report there from Sanford, those outer bands still impacting the East Coast, even though we're starting to get the worst of it now here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, and I have a bad-looking radar picture for what they were just talking about in that live shot here, because this appears to have been the heaviest rains. This is a radar rainfall estimate for the last 12 hours, and you can see that area from Orlando across in the southern Lake County, back into Sumter, and back over towards Dade City. That's where we did not want the heaviest rain to fall, and that appears to be the heaviest so far of over 2 inches based on radar rainfall estimates. So the center of Nicole is now moving near the Lakeland area. It's moving into probably Pasco County very soon. Looks like the center is right around here, and that means the winds are coming around like so, and then they're whipping around the backside from the south, and it's drying out some in eastern Polk County, but there's more moisture back down to the south. It's going to whip around the backside. So the wind direction will change. If your lawn furniture, your garbage cans are blown one way, they're going to go back the other way because the wind's going to change as the center comes in across the area. Kyle is here with us now, and we're going to talk more about these tides. We're not seeing any flooding problems right now, Kyle, but that could change later on.
Yes, absolutely. So this is a look at actually the water levels at Clearwater Beach, and this is where we've had that persistent northwest to southeast wind. So it's really the only spot that we've seen that steady onshore wind. And as a result, I'll show you here, this blue line is the predicted tide level, the predicted water level. So you can see the red line is the actual observed, and one of these hash marks right here, that represents about a foot, and that's currently about what we're seeing right now, about a foot above the predicted tide in Clearwater. Of course, it's at low tide right now, but you can see high tide will be early this afternoon, and by then we'll have several hours of that onshore wind. So there's potential, I'd say, in coastal Pinellas County, including Clearwater Beach, that we could see 1, 2, 3 feet of above normal water levels there. So keep that in mind. Some minor coastal flooding possible in coastal Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Manatee, and maybe a more significant threat as you go north. But still, I don't expect it to be, a large storm surge in coastal Pasco and north, but maybe a little bit more up there as you get closer to the center of Nicole as it swings a little bit more out into the northeastern Gulf. Here's a live look, though, at our crowncars.com camera in St. Pete. You can see here, again, looking out over the water, certainly a lot of wind and rain out there right now. Again, wind gusts are in St. Pete right around 45 miles an hour, near 52 for the recent wind gusts at the Tampa airport. And you can see up in Brooksville, still sitting at 52 for that recent gust there. In Clearwater, I was mentioning, notice how that wind is now onshore there. It has been onshore. It's out of the northwest, a sustained wind of 37 miles an hour. It is starting to lighten up a bit in Polk County. You can see winds sustained generally around 20 miles an hour or so. So some improvement as the worst side of the storm really starting to push into southeastern Pasco County with some improvement as you go southeast. Rainfall amounts, you can see Winter Haven about 1.5 inches, but there have been some isolated spots of 3 inches or so, especially in northern northeastern Polk, and then perhaps even up into parts of Pasco County, getting reports of some isolated 2 to 3 inches of rain so far, perhaps even a little bit more still to go there. And then especially over our coastal counties, we still got probably about another inch or two of rain to go in some spots. Currently, Nicole is moving to the west-northwest at 14 miles an hour. It's going to pick up speed, continue to move to the northwest, may just barely get out into the northeastern Gulf. Winds currently 60 miles an hour or so. It will be weakening, though, as it moves out into the Gulf. So, again, I don't expect a significant surge or anything like that in our coastal northern counties along the nature coast here, but certainly some water level rise is going to be possible, around 3 feet or even more in some spots here as we head into the afternoon. Notice, though, still dealing with some bands of heavy rain through midday, but as we head into the afternoon, most of this is going to be focused in coastal counties here. As you go inland, of course, still likely going to see some improving conditions. Again, a couple of bands could still linger here through the day, but we'll start to see these bands become a little bit more intermittent. And as we head through the evening, again, we have several hours of an onshore wind by 7, 8 o'clock along the nature coast and along coastal Pinellas and Manatee County. But good news is around 7, 8 o'clock, that's low tide for most folks. And then we could see a secondary high tide, of course, early tomorrow morning. We still have an onshore wind, but that wind will be weakening. Still some bands left over, some pockets of heavy rain and some gusty winds, but overall an improvement overnight tonight. And by Friday morning, the morning commute looks fantastic. Maybe a couple of showers. It's still going to be windy out there on Friday, don't get me wrong. It's just going to be a significant improvement over today. We're talking winds around 20 miles an hour or so, gusting higher than that at times. But again, a lot better, and certainly by Friday evening, you can see here mostly dry, maybe a spot shower or two, but looks all good then. With tropical systems, we talk about a low-end tornado risk. I've been getting some questions from some folks about that, but for the most part, it looks like the conditions are going to be more favorable northeast of our area for that. So I don't think we have to worry about any brief spin-up tornadoes in our neck of the woods with this system. Today, of course, temperatures staying mostly in the mid-70s, windy out there, occasional gusts 50 to 60 miles an hour here in some spots over the next several hours. Tonight, temperatures fall back to the upper 60s and low 70s with some scattered showers and wind left over. 7-day forecast here. Again, we're looking at still a few leftover showers tonight and into tomorrow. Temperatures back up to the low 80s Friday, Saturday, but we get a cold front to come through Saturday night. Look at those temperatures starting off on Sunday in the low 60s. Plenty of sunshine as we head into early next week with below normal temps. Mid-70s on Sunday, upper 70s Monday, starting the day out in the 50s, but a little bit of a warm-up will happen as we head towards Tuesday and Wednesday. Right now, though, I do want to send it over to Tim Ronca live in the traffic center. How's everything moving out on the roads there, Tim?
Thanks again, Kyle. Yeah, we're taking a live look here at the Howard Franklin Bridge. Take a look at this. Really tough conditions right now if you're crossing the bridge. I see a few folks even have their hazard lights on as they're trying to do so. And you can see just how shaky that the camera is in the rain and wind. And as you just saw from Mike and Kyle, a lot of that rain right now is sitting over this area here. And this is the Pinellas County side of the Howard Franklin Bridge. So not a pleasant commute out there right now. If you're able to stay home, especially in areas like this, that would be a good idea. Taking a look here on our real-time traffic maps, we also know that a lot of rain is moving through Polk County, the northeastern side of Hillsborough County, and now into Pasco County. So this has been a trouble spot for us a lot of this morning. So roads like US 301, State Road 54, US 98, and of course 75 down to I-4 are going to be pretty heavy right now in terms of wind and rain. So something to keep in mind. We do have a crash on I-75 just over the Manatee County line, the northbound side in southern Hillsborough. Looks to be pretty involved. Just one lane getting through there. We've seen quite a few like this around the area today, so certainly use extra caution if you're heading out there right now. I'll have an update coming up for you in just a few minutes.
Here are your winning lottery numbers.
Stay informed throughout your day.
Stop! Don't buy another social campaign. What? The Spectrum Reach ad portal puts our business on the best of TV and streaming. You can do it yourself, run on our computer, and we can afford it. You're me? I'm you, but wiser. The ad portal helps us grow. It targets customers right down to the zip code. You came back in time. Wait, right down to the zip code? And put Siggy in the ads. The customers love him.
Advertise on live TV and streaming. The future of your business will thank you. Spectrum Reach, one advertising partner, and done.
Meet Blue. Blue's not feeling well. The prescription? Generic medication. Blue wonders, do they really work as well as name brands? Yes, generics and name brand medications do work the same. Even though they may look different, generics have the same key ingredients. FDA approval is equally rigorous for generics to make sure they're as safe and effective as name brands. And Blue even saves some green, making him a little less, well, blue. Talk to your doctor about generics and visit fda.gov/generic drugs.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Did you have any idea that was going on?
None. I mean, you saw Derek at the game last night, too. Did you have a clue?
No, but you know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do. Kids hear first about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, bullying, violence, anything, you need to tell an adult. Mom or me, a teacher, coach, school counselor, someone you know and trust.
Dad, no kid is gonna tell an adult about that kind of stuff.
I get it, but if we don't know, we can't help. Speaking up about a problem, that's what helping a friend is all about.
I was diagnosed at 65.
37. Earlier than most.
Every 9 minutes, someone is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
And every one of them can turn to the American Parkinson Disease Association. Visit apdaparkinson.org to learn more and show your support today.
Your morning news, presented by Chevrolet and your local Chevy dealers.
Good morning. As we continue to track Tropical Storm Nicole, I'm Roy DeJesus.
And I'm Georgia Roman. Thanks for joining us. Here's your Spectrum News in 90 this morning. We want to give you a live look right now out at Madeira Beach, showing you the conditions that Nicole is bringing to our area. You can see it's windy, a lot of rain, the water there rough. Pasco County right now is temporarily halting county services today in anticipation of the harsh weather that they'll be dealing with. Trash and recycling collection services and Go Pasco bus services also are suspended, and Pasco County Parks and Rec events also canceled.
Back to Pinellas County, the Suncoast Transit Authority plans to keep bus services open today, but PSTA will halt service if the storm has sustained winds of 40 miles per hour. If paused, PSTA will resume service as soon as possible after the storm passes.
The Hillsborough County Expressway Authority says the reversible express lanes on the Selman Expressway will be turned eastbound and remain that way through the weekend. Normal hours of operation will resume at 6 a.m. on Monday.
That's a bit of what we're following you at the 8:30 hour, or 8:30 time. Now your Cluster 9 forecast with meteorologist Mike Clay. Mike, what is the track of Nicole right now? We are about to enter more close to the Bay Area. I mean, it's past Polk County by now, huh?
Yeah, the center is just moving by Lakeland right now, about to move in towards Pasco County. That's the center of circulation, so the winds are going to come around very quickly to the other side once that moves by. So it looks like the center of Nicole is right in here. And again, these winds are really cranking across the bay like so. But on the backside, the winds are coming around like so up towards from a south wind up towards Orlando, where they're finally drying out just a bit, but that still leaves us with some very heavy rain bands on Klystron 9 that are whipping through the Bay Area, producing heavy rain. We just had a report of Polk City getting 3 inches of rain out of this, as the center is very close to there. All right, so Kyle is here, and he's got an update on what's going on with this forecast. Kyle, it's going to be a long morning for a few folks, but at least the afternoon looks better.
Yeah, afternoon we'll see some improvement, but right now here's a live look you can see at our 1-800-ASK-GARY camera out of Madeira Beach. Certainly very windy and rainy out there, but look at this temperature because of that consistent northwest wind that's actually bringing in some much cooler air. It's only 66 degrees. Look at that wind, though, sustained at 37 miles an hour, just 2 miles an hour shy of the tropical storm criteria. You can actually see that now in Clearwater, up to 41 miles an hour for that sustained wind. Again, 39 miles an hour sustained winds or greater is the definition of a tropical storm. So we're verifying that right now in Clearwater. Elsewhere, we are gusting, brief gusts at times over 40, 45 in St. Pete, 52 mile an hour gusts currently in Tampa, 43 the current gust in Brooksville. But we're starting to see some improvement in those winds and also the rain as well across Polk County. You can see Lake Will's gusting to 35 miles an hour. I'll show you when the rest of the area will start to improve, a timeline of when we'll really start to see much better conditions across here in Tampa coming up in about the next 10 minutes or so.
All right, Kyle, thank you. Let's check in with Tim Ronka in the real-time traffic center this morning. And wow, that is windy there. Where are you looking?
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot out there right now.
Yeah.
Good morning again, Georgia. Yeah, so you can see this is the Howard Franklin Bridge right now, very wobbly in that wind, as you pointed out. And that's where a lot of this rain is sitting right now, as you just saw from Mike and Kyle. And take a look at the visibility as well. So not pleasant right now if you're heading over the bridges, really anywhere in Pinellas County. This is what the scene's going to look like here for you. You can see all that wind and that rain. On our real-time traffic maps, I put the radar on it so you can see where some of that heaviest wind is and rain as far as your roads go. And as you heard Mike say, it's kind of moving into Pasco County right now, the eye that is. So a lot of these roads here, like 54, US 301, State Road 39, US 98, aren't going to be the best places to drive right now. That is certainly going to be the case there. Still have this crash on 75 northbound, getting over to Hillsborough County from Manatee County, right there in the southern area of the county. Looks to be pretty involved, just one lane getting through there. And I've seen quite a few crashes involving semis like that around the interstates today. So certainly use caution out there if you can. We'll have an update on how conditions are looking coming up in just a few minutes. Georgia, Roy.
Tim, thank you. Florida's Space Coast was hit hard as Nicole came ashore overnight, and they're still dealing with impacts even now, those outer bands.
Yeah, strong winds, steady rain blanketed Brevard County all morning long. And Spectrum Bay News 9's Will Robinson-Smith joins us live right now at 8:37 in Titusville. And Will, the storm is impacting residents as well as the NASA's Artemis mission. We have already reported that scheduled launch has moved back a couple of days. How are conditions over there? We can see that you're getting battered by some of the wind and rain.
Yeah, we're here in Cocoa Village, one of the quaint parts of Cocoa, just near the Indian River. But Indian River, not so quaint today. You can see a lot of sea spray coming off of the water there just at the edge of Lee Warner Park. And as Vincent zooms in, you can see just to the right of where the Cocoa police car is stationed there, blocking off the entrance to the park. You see some boats that are battering against the wall, and there's actually another one that's a little bit farther up the park from where we're standing. You can just tell the power of the wind from what was formerly Hurricane Nicole, now Tropical Storm Nicole, but the winds have remained very intense here. And unfortunately, some people have not been heeding the advice of law enforcement and our meteorologists, who have been trying to stress that now is not the time to come look around, take pictures, because we still are dealing with really strong winds and in some areas a lot of rain. Right now the rain's not the problem, it's the wind, but we've seen a number of cars that have been going in and out of the park trying to get some pictures, social media posts. This is not the time to do that. It's not safe right now. As we've stressed throughout the morning and throughout this storm event, we go through a series of training with law enforcement, with our station, to be able to bring you these live images and pictures. So we are taking our necessary precautions, but for the general public and those who are not emergency personnel like this police officer here, this is not the time. You see the couple that's off to the right with the black jacket. That's what you're not supposed to be doing right now. This is not a good time for that. So there will be a time when the wind dies down and the storm moves past, when you can get out and survey the damage. But right now, officials are advising you to just stay home, hunker down, and ride this thing out till it's safe. Reporting live here in Cocoa Village, Will Robinson-Smith, Spectrum Bay News 9.
Thanks, Will. And I'm assuming, and speaking for Bay Area officials here, but they would want you to heed those warnings in this area as well. You can find more information on the impacts of Nicole on our website right now. Also on the Spectrum News app, everyone can stream Spectrum Bay News 9 for free right now without a login until the storm passes. We've got more team coverage later this morning with a look at those impacts in Central and East Florida, as well as how Nicole is impacting us here.
Yeah, we have reporters all across the state bringing you live images, showing you the conditions. Right now, this is a look at Flagler Beach, and you can see the wind still strong there, the waves, high waves there, rough conditions, and this storm has already moved away from the East Coast, but that just goes to show how wide of an impact this is. Let's bring in our chief meteorologist, Mike Clay, live in our weather center. And Mike, you've been talking about this for days, that this storm was going to have really widespread impacts all across the state of Florida and even extending beyond.
It shows you how far we've come in meteorology in the last 20 years. 20 years ago, we would have gone, oh, look, how did that pop up? But a storm like this we were able to see a week ago.
Yeah.
It was forming, and it was an unusual formation, how it formed in the Atlantic and not purely tropical, kind of a hybrid at first. And now here it is. It's right on top of us. Here's our Klystron 9 camera, and this is in Pinellas Park. You can see the rain is still coming down hard in parts of the area, especially in Pinellas County. And Klystron 9, the radar itself, shows it's just saturated in Pinellas County with heavy rain. Where's the center? Well, it's right over here. It appears to be very close to Lakeland, or on the northwest side of Lakeland. That's the center, and the significant thing with that is, it's not like an eye with Ian or anything, but the significant thing with that is the wind's going to change direction pretty abruptly as that comes by, and we're starting to see some improvement in the weather in eastern Polk County, but it is really coming down still as that whips around with that band over Pinellas County, and we've had some gusts to 64 miles per hour at Bel Air. So Kyle Hansen is here, and he's got an update on the forecast. So 64 mile an hour gusts, not quite as high as we saw during Tropical Storm Ian, but still, it'll get your attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly something that can, cause a little bit of damage here and there. Certainly could bring down some of those weaker trees, result in some power outages. So, of course, you got to be prepared for that. Here's a live look at Tampa, though, with our weather-tight Windows camera. You can see not too much visibility out there. Still can see the foreground, but nonetheless, very windy and rainy. We get a heavier band of rain now moving through that part of the area this morning. And as you were mentioning, Mike, that wind shift as the center of Nicole moves towards the northwest. You can see in Lakeland, The wind is pretty much basically out of west. It's a due west wind, west to east wind. That means the center is just north of there in Lakeland. It's moving pretty much right towards Zephyr Hills right now. And then you can see a southwest wind where the center has passed in the rest of Polk County with lighter winds on that southeast side. So really the strongest winds with this system are actually on the west side of the storm here. You can see right now we are verifying a tropical storm in Clearwater with winds sustained at 41 miles an hour, but we are gusting over tropical storm force in St. Pete at 45 miles an hour, 52 for Tampa, 43 in Brooksville for that wind gust at this point, and gusting to 48 recently in Bradenton. Rain so far today. Again, official observations in Polk County. We have 1.5 inches in Winter Haven, but we did get an observation of around 3 inches in Polk City there. Zephyr Hills around 1 inch of rain, but I do expect some areas already in Pasco County seeing more than that. Some of these observations may be a little bit out of date here. And we still get several more hours of rain here, especially right along the coast. We may continue to see these additional bands of rain move into our coastline, even as Nicole may move out into the very extreme northeastern part of the Gulf, probably passing very close to coastal Hernando and Citrus County as it moves off into the Gulf of Mexico. As we head into the afternoon, again, we have a high tide for most areas around 2-3 o'clock this afternoon. And with an onshore wind, it is possible that we could see some coastal flooding pretty much anywhere from Manatee County north. But as you go farther north, the better chance of getting, say, closer to 3 or 4 feet above your normal water level there. And as we head into later this afternoon, notice how these bands become more intermittent. So by the evening commute, it's probably not going to be as treacherous as what we're dealing with on the morning commute this morning. But as we head toward tonight, still we have some leftover bands, still could see some gusty winds there, but I doubt that we would be seeing the gusts that we're seeing this morning. We're probably going to back off to, maybe that 30-mile-an-hour range for those wind gusts tonight. So still windy, but not as windy as what we're seeing right now. And then by Friday morning, the morning commute looking a lot better out there. Still some gusts around 25 miles an hour or so during the morning hours on Friday. But notice we get some breaks in the action here. Just a few leftover showers through the day on Friday, as Nicole is going to be pretty much off in Georgia by that point. You can see here, again, significant improvement tomorrow. In terms of those wind speeds, again, pretty much now through midday is when we're going to see the worst of it. By this afternoon, again, we still have gusts here and there that are going to be in the 30 to 40 mile an hour range, but probably going to be back tropical storm force, which is some good news with improvement as we head through Friday. Again, still a windy day on Friday, but not as bad as what we have today. But right now, I do want to toss it on over to Tim Ronca in the traffic center. He's got a live update of what's going on the roads. Certainly a very busy day, busy morning on the roads as well.
Thanks again, Kyle. Yeah, you said it, and you talked a lot about how conditions are looking out there, and that's pretty much what we're seeing right now. That's your rush hour commute this morning has been dealing with the weather more than dealing with any traffic. That is certainly the case here. I want to show 275 and the Dick Meisner Bridge in Pinellas County, and this is the bridge that you would take before you get onto the Skyway Bridge. The Skyway Bridge is shut down, of course. It's shut down right around 7 a.m., and so this is where you have Florida Highway Patrol redirecting folks off. They have to go through the barrier here to get back on 275 northbound to get around it. But I also want you to just take a look at this camera right now because it shows you what it's like out there right now on the roadways. You can see all the wind gusts coming through, a lot of rain, the camera just shaking right now. And as you saw on our Klystron 9 radar, that's where a lot of this rain is sitting right now. So best to stay home if you can. Certainly not the easiest drive time out there, that's for sure. I do want to check back in on this crash here. This is 75 northbound just over the Manatee County line. And while it's not impacting traffic too badly because traffic's pretty light, it is only just one lane that is getting by there. And we've seen this sort of thing happen throughout the area this morning where you're seeing crashes involving semis and things like that because of some of the wind and rain that's out there. So we had FHP on about an hour ago. They told us it is best to stay home if you can today, at least while this storm is moving through the area. We'll have an update on how conditions are looking for you coming up in just a few minutes.
Can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me something. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, no thanks, not my thing.
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
What if you had to choose between fixing the roof over your head and putting food on the table? What if that leak led to mold growing in your home? What if you no longer had a safe place to call home? Help Rebuilding Together make repairs for our neighbors who have lost jobs and have to make those difficult choices. Text REBUILD to 484848.
Making just one connection during recovery from mental and substance use disorders puts the strength of family and community behind you. We're all connected. Join the Voices for Recovery. Strengthen families and communities.
For confidential information on mental and substance use disorders, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human...
What if you could feel in control of your retirement in just a few clicks? At aceyourretirement.org, you can. Start with a free 3-minute chat with Avo, your friendly digital retirement coach. Just answer some simple questions like, how do you feel about your ability to save for retirement? Or in how many years do you want to retire? To get free action items customized just for you, get your retirement back on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful when Mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. I wanted a better relationship with Dad, so I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
County at Belair Beach as we continue to cover this tropical storm rolling across the area. Nicole, let's go over to our Pinellas Park camera, and we are seeing the rain really coming down now. It's pouring over parts of the area. Just had a report coming in from Newport Richey of a car port blown over in Newport Richey. So there is some minor damage occurring with these gusty winds that Kyle will tell you about in just a second. There's the center on Klystron 9. You can clearly see the circulation. Don't see this every day. With that tropical storm coming across the area, it looks like the center is now north of Plant City in Hillsborough County. The winds are going to swing around on the backside out of the south, but we still have those strong north to northwest winds out ahead of the center. The center is moving along at a pretty good clip, about 14 miles per hour. Power outages in the area right now. We're up to 14,000 in Hillsborough County, 7,000 in Pasco County without power. And of course, the big one is over on the East Coast with 86,000 without power right now over in the Cocoa Beach, Melbourne area. So Kyle, what are we dealing with those winds right now?
Yeah, no, we're starting to see some of those winds turn around in terms of the direction, but the speed is still up there. It's been, we've seen several reports, of course, of wind gusts, especially in coastal Pinellas County, where we've seen over 60-mile-an-hour gusts. And once you get to that threshold around 60 miles an hour or greater, that's where we start to see a little bit of damage here and there. Right now, you can see in St. Pete, we've had a recent gust of 51, 52 for Tampa, 43 in Brooksville. Notice again, Lakeland, we're starting to see that wind shift to pretty much straight out of the west. That means the center now to your north, even a little bit northwest of Lakeland. Bartow around a southwesterly direction as that really has passed off to the northwest there. And you can notice those winds are starting to lighten up. But really over the next couple of hours here from basically Manatee County to Hillsborough County, Pinellas County, north into the Nature Coast between now and about 11 a.m. is the timing of the worst of the wind here. We are seeing some slight weakening with Nicole in terms of wind speeds. Winds right now around 60 miles an hour or so as it continues to move toward the northwest here. And by early this afternoon, I'd say about 1, 2 o'clock, Nicole is likely going to be near or over the Gulf of Mexico, the northeastern Gulf. So as you get closer to that center, and since it can swing out a little bit into the Gulf, some water level rise is possible, particularly along the Nature Coast here. That's where we have a storm surge warning going for 3 to 5 feet. It's likely going to be closer to that 3-foot range. And the good news is the worst of it is timed with low tide this evening. Could still see some minor coastal flooding for Tampa Bay, coastal Pinellas, and down to Manatee County with with an onshore wind, but it's not going to be quite as fast for the winds down there. So maybe about 1, 2, perhaps just under 3 feet of water level rise there as well as we head into the afternoon and evening. You can see by 3 o'clock, again, the center is out over the Gulf, but we still have some rain bands coming on through. These will not be as intense as the bands, though, that we have out there this morning, but still could result in an additional couple of inches of rain across the area, basically between now and mid-afternoon. Still a few bands left over tonight, even as those winds gradually start to die down. Still could see some coastal flooding in some spots of the Nature Coast, especially where that wind is still going to be a little bit elevated overnight tonight, and we get another high tide very early tomorrow morning as well. By the time we make it to Friday morning, though, notice a significant improvement out there. Friday is just a couple of passing showers. Still windy through the day on Friday, but absolutely nothing like today. The morning commute should be pretty good. Again, just a little bit breezy, especially on those overpasses where you can feel it a little bit more, or out on any of the bridges as well. Again, through the rest of the day today and tonight, an additional inch or two of rain for most, I would say. I think this model might be underestimating that in a couple spots, but certainly still got a few bands of rain left over, especially in coastal counties. Here's your 7-day forecast. You can see temperatures mostly in the low 80s tomorrow. Still breezy on Friday. Saturday is mostly dry. Notice how we have a cold front coming through this weekend. By Saturday and Sunday, look at that. Much drier, cooler air Saturday night in the low 60s, and then 70s for highs Sunday, Monday. Then a little bit more warmth will return as we head toward the middle part of next week. But right now, I do want to send it over to Tim Ronca in the traffic center. How are things moving out there right now, Tim?
Thanks again, Kyle. Yeah, not too great in terms of conditions on the roadways. Now, traffic's not really going to be your big issue this morning in terms of rush hour. It's really just going to be how the roads are looking. Good morning again, everyone. So here's a live look in Pasco County, one of our real-time traffic cams provided by DOT. 75 and State Road 54, and a lot of rain and water on the lens. You can see it moving around in the wind there a lot. And this is right in that area there where you just heard Mike and Kyle talking a lot about where some of the bulk of that storm is right now. And on our real-time traffic maps, you can see a lot of rain bands there through that area of Wesley Chapel, Zephyr Hills, and entering all that kind of corner there of Pasco County, Polk, and Hillsborough. So something to keep in mind if you're heading out the door right now. If you have to be out there, of course, our officials like FHP are recommending you stay inside if you can. Here is a live look at 275 in Pinellas County. Take a look at all the wind and rain through this camera right now. We have a lot of rain sitting over Pinellas County right here. These flashing lights you're seeing are on 275 right before the Skyway Bridge entrance ramp here on the Dick Meisner Bridge. They are there because the Skyway Bridge is shut down. Been closed for about 2 hours now, so traffic's being routed around onto northbound 275, and you can see just not very pleasant right now on the interstate, so avoid them if you can. We'll update your conditions coming up in just a few minutes.
On election night,
Hi, Shane Huffman with the Neil Huffman Automotive Group. If you're currently considering selling your vehicle, then the time to act is now. There has never been a better time to receive top dollar for your vehicle than there is today. All you got to do is visit us at neilhuffman.com. Huffman has it.
Planning the right amount of food is hard. The Guestimator makes it easy. Just tell it who's coming and what's for dinner. Then it tells you how much to make. And yes, it even plans for leftovers. Try it at SaveTheFood.com.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course.
He's reaching, but he pushes it away. He's approaching a plate of iced cookies. He blows right by him.
Oh, the fridge.
Looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle.
Now he's just got to get out of there.
Look what dropped from the sky.
Don't do it, Dennis. That's the way you execute a Midnight Snack Run.
Stay Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Stop! Don't buy another social campaign. What? The Spectrum Reach ad portal puts our business on the best of TV and streaming. You can do it yourself, run in our computer, and we can afford it. You're me? I'm you, but wiser. The ad portal helps us grow. It targets customers right down to the zip code. You came back in time. Wait, right down to the zip code? And put Siggy in the ads. The customers love him.
Advertise on live TV and streaming. The future of your business will thank you. Spectrum Reach, one advertising partner, and done.
With the fastest and most detailed information, plus the context you need to be prepared. You safe this hurricane season on your television and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
The future of connectivity is here, where the flexibility and ease of mobile works hand in hand with the reliability, security, and speed of the internet. One unified network that moves information at unimaginable speeds and works like a shield to block threats before they ever get to you. That's powerful enough to run smart cities, yet simple.
Get it right. You know I'll be there all your life. When you need me, I'll be by your side.
Little everyday conversations about the dangers of underage drinking can make a big difference in a child's life.
Your morning news, presented by Chevrolet and your local Chevy dealers.
Good morning. We're glad to have you with us. I'm Georgia Roman.
And I'm Roy Jesus. This is your Spectrum News in 90. Nicole made landfall just south of Vero Beach this morning, making history as the latest in a calendar year a hurricane has ever struck Florida's Atlantic coast. Nicole, now a tropical storm, also became the first hurricane to make landfall in November in the U.S. in nearly 40 years.
Schools in all of our Bay Area counties are closed today. Hillsborough, Polk, Manatee, Hernando, and Citrus counties will remain closed tomorrow for Veterans Day, but Pasco and Pinellas schools plan to reopen then.
Also with closures, theme parks around Florida closed today. Busch Gardens, Disney World, Universal, and SeaWorld are closed this morning as Nicole continues on its path across the state. Disney and Universal both plan on reopening parks later this afternoon. Busch Gardens and SeaWorld will welcome guests back tomorrow.
We're going to have team coverage for you all morning of Tropical Storm Nicole. Let's head over to the Weather Center, check in live with Chief Meteorologist Mike Clay for the latest on this storm, where it's headed and what it's doing. Mike, where are we seeing the heaviest rain and wind right now?
Certainly in Pinellas County. We had a gust of 64 miles per hour at Bel Air a short time ago. And on Clystron 9, we can see the rain really coming in across parts of Pinellas County now. The center of circulation is moving through Hillsborough County. The center of circulation, it's kind of falling apart. It is over land, and because of that, being over land, it'll continue to fall apart, but we still have a big rain band sitting right over Pinellas County, rotating right around into Hillsborough County. So in a closer view, you can see this area of really heavy downpours here, that it's coming in like so off the Gulf of Mexico. So it's moving in across Pinellas County, very heavy rain right along the beaches, down towards the Skyway, and we've had radar rainfall estimates now of over 2 inches in southern Pinellas County. And again, looking into Hillsborough, light to moderate county, rain in that county and up into Pasco County right now. We've got mainly light to moderate rain. The center of circulation looks like it's right in here south of Zephyr Hills and north of Plant City right now. And before we go back over to Kyle, let me give you a wider view, and you can see that thing really spinning now around our area, moving back towards the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Kyle's got an update on some of these tide levels that we're watching right now. So far, no problems though, Kyle.
Yeah, so far we're not really seeing any significant flooding at this point, but I do want to point out the blue line right here, this is for Clearwater Beach, by the way, some observations of the water levels. The blue line is the forecast tide. The red line is the observation here. You can see how it is jumping up at a higher rate than the incoming high tide for early this afternoon. Actually now over a foot in terms of above what the forecast tide was. So the water levels now in Clearwater Beach, after several hours of a steady onshore wind out of the northwest, we're starting to see those water levels come about a foot above that predicted tide for this time right now. And it's possible that we could see perhaps as we head into the afternoon more of an onshore wind about 2 or 3 feet above that predicted tide level. So maybe a little bit of coastal flooding as we approach high tide as we head into the early afternoon. Right now that wind is sustained right at tropical storm force in Clearwater with 39 mile an hour winds, 53 for the gust though in Tampa, 43 for the gust in Brooksville straight out of the north. Notice how those winds are coming around to just basically out of the south and much of Polk County and also starting to lighten up. So those stronger winds are on the western side of the storm. I'm going to show you when we finally start to see the conditions improve across the area coming up here in about the next 10 minutes or so. Time now, 9:04, and our real-time traffic expert, Tim Ronka, still with us at the 9 o'clock hour, as he should be, keeping an eye on the roadways for us. Tim, what are you seeing right now?
Always happy to be here with you guys. Good morning again. Yeah, we're looking pretty bad out there in terms of road conditions. And take a look at this. This is the Howard Franklin Bridge right now. Take a look at how low that visibility is right now. If you're trying to cross, we're on the south side of the bridge here, so closer to the Pinellas County side. You can see all the wind and the rain, the camera shaking, and this is what it looks like out there in a lot of different spots. In another spot on 275, we have this one right by the Dick Meisner Bridge, and that's that bridge you would cross right before the Skyway Bridge. The Skyway Bridge is shut down. It was shut down at about 7 o'clock this morning, and that was because FHP told us that they had wind of 50 miles per hour sustained at the top of the bridge. They usually would shut it down for 40 miles per hour. So we've had some pretty significant impacts here on the roadways. Over to our real-time traffic maps, as you've heard Kyle talk about, and Mike as well, we have a lot of the storm moving through the Pasco County area right now. And so roads like State Road 54, 75, US 301, 98, you can see that some of the radar there sitting with a lot of rain over those roads. So not very pleasant conditions out there. Avoid them if you can. That's, of course, the advice that's coming from our state officials as well. We'll have more on conditions on the roadways coming up for you soon. Georgia, Roy.
And we have team coverage for you all morning on Tropical Storm Nicole, covering every angle for you. Our weather experts are tracking where the storm is headed, the rain, the wind that it's bringing to our area, and of course other parts of Florida. Our Jason Lanning is in Polk County monitoring conditions there. And then our Angie Andrews is going to join us live in just a few moments. She's at a staging site for those power crews, and they're waiting to respond to the outages.
Yeah, and we're keeping a track on that. Nicole made landfall just south of Vero Beach earlier this morning as a low-level Category 1 hurricane, now a tropical storm. The storm is lashing our area right now, getting to Pasco County with heavy rain and wind around 70 mile an hour. And you saw our meteorologist say gusts of 40 sustained in Clearwater Beach. Yeah. We'll go over to Polk County as the storm just left there. Jason Lanning tells us why the conditions were there.
The worst of Tropical Storm Nicole is over for people here in the city of Lakeland. We did see a wind gust earlier today of 36 miles an hour from a local weather station, but in Winter Haven, we saw a 51 mile an hour gust, and in Bartow, we got as high as 61 miles an hour. The good news, though, those wind gusts did not cause any damage. Polk County's EOC telling us they have received zero damage report, so that is certainly some good news. We are watching the continuing rainfall here, though. We are now up to more than 2 inches of rainfall from Tropical Storm Nicole, but so far not getting any reports of localized flooding in those high flood-prone areas. We want to take you out and about in the neighborhoods of Lakeland early on as Tropical Storm Nicole pushed in. Here's the question of the day. Is it too early for a Christmas tree or too late for a tropical storm? Regardless of your answer, we can all agree it is a very weird day with the tropical system this late in the season. We had a chance to talk with Lakeland resident Nicole Harrison, who told us what she and her husband experienced overnight as Nicole pushed in.
Basically, like, the lights were flickering on and off, and then after that, it was just like, it just like blew. Like, you just see one go, and then next thing you know, you see another one go. I was like, oh, that's not good.
And there's worry when the lights flicker, because in a tropical system, when the lights flicker, that could mean the power is going out soon. The good news, though, here in Lakeland, minimal power outages. 150 people without power. That number was as high as 300, but those numbers are dropping, which tells us power crews are out restoring power. We've also seen firefighters, fire trucks, and police cruisers out and about, so it does appear emergency services are up and running here across the county. We're on scene in Polk County. Jason Lanning, Spectrum News.
Jason, thank you. And of course, we're starting to see power outages across the state. We knew that that was going to happen with the heavy wind that was moving through the area.
Yeah, and the Duke Energy area is already reporting more than 90,000 outages. Thousands of residents in Pinellas County also without electricity. Let's go live right now with Spectrum Bay News' Angie Andrews outside Tropicana Field, where Duke has been staging for some time to see when they need to go out there and do some restoring as the weather starts to clear up. Hey, Angie.
Hey, good morning, guys. Checking back in here from Tropicana Field. So those rain bands that we heard our weather experts talking about, we're certainly seeing them here in downtown St. Petersburg. And that wind, still those really heavy gusts, but they're coming really sporadically. But when they hit, they certainly are heavy. But I will say we did just see a couple of power crews leave the staging area here at Tropicana Field, which is always a good sign when we're talking about 90,000 plus power outages. So I am joined live now by Bill, who is with Duke Energy. So Bill, I know we talked just about an hour ago, but of course we just saw our crews that were right back here move onto the roads. This movement, it's a good thing. What are we seeing? What's coming?
Yeah, that's a good sign. An hour ago we were at about 80,000 outages. Now we're up to 100,000. So it's still climbing. The trucks moving out, you know, they can start moving to sites at 39 miles an hour. That's when they can safely move to where the outage is. They won't actually get the buckets up in the air until the winds are below 30.
So we're not going to see those repairs just yet, it sounds like, but it's that 30-mile-an-hour threshold?
Yeah, that's the threshold. You know, the good thing is, thanks to self-healing technology, some restoration's happening automatically. The stuff we can do by computer. We've already restored 46,000 outages. That was both trucks that could get out last night, as well as what we can do remotely.
Awesome. My final question for you, what areas are we seeing right now that are the hardest hit areas when it comes to those outages?
You know, Orange has the biggest hit, over 30,000. Seminole County is next. Here in Pinellas, we're about 12,000 outages.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us again live at 9 o'clock this morning. As you can see, a couple more crews just starting to leave here, so movement is good, obviously. And hopefully we'll start to see those repairs happening in the next couple of hours. We'll check back in with you guys soon.
All right, Angie, thank you. They're going to have a lot of work ahead of them as they head out to try to fix these power outages. Right now, we're giving you a live look at Madera Beach, and it gives us a glimpse into what conditions are like there. Lots of wind, rainy, and you can see how rough the water is as Nicole moves across the Bay Area.
Yeah, and once it gets to the Gulf, it'll start kicking up those waves into shore a little more. So let's check in with our meteorologist, Mike Clay, with a look at the conditions as Nicole, I'm assuming, is now in Pasco.
Yeah, it's moving through Pasco County. The center is becoming less and less well-defined, kind of harder to find, but it's still there, and it's moving through Pasco County, moving towards the Gulf again, moving towards the west. We're starting to see higher rainfall totals showing up on our radar rainfall estimate in Pinellas County. We've got some totals here showing up around 1.5 to 2 to a little over 2.5 inches in Pinellas County. So some pretty good rain has been coming down from this. And we also, as we move down to the south into Manatee County, we're starting to see some of those totals show up too, especially north of Bradenton around Tiercia and over towards Parrish. Some areas picking up now in that band wrapping around the center. Some areas picking up some very heavy rainfall. So here's the latest on Klystron 9, and we can see the center. And just like Roy said, it looks like it's right on the Hillsborough-Pasco County line now, moving towards the west-northwest. So if that goes over you, you'll notice a very quick and abrupt wind shift from the winds coming in around the center back to the south side, and that has put this band kind of almost stationary right over Pinellas County, northern portions of Manatee County. You see where it goes over to the orange? That's very torrential rainfall coming in across Pinellas County, and then the center is clearly visible to you there on Klystron 9. We don't see that every day coming across Pasco County right now. Conditions are, though, improving in Polk County, so that's the good news. So meteorologist Kyle Hansen is here with us, and we've got conditions in Manatee County to look at here. Manatee got a really heavy rain out of this, especially north of Bradenton in the last few minutes there, Kyle.
Yeah, certainly a lot of rain, and of course that wind is out of the northwest, starting to see maybe a little bit of a water rise here. You can see in Bradenton right on the river. Of course, very rainy out there, windy as well. We'll continue to monitor for some elevated water levels, though, as we head through the day today. I think particularly as we head into the afternoon, we've got high tide around early afternoon for most folks. Some minor coastal flooding possible around the Tampa Bay area, Pinellas County, coastal Manatee County, coastal areas there. Again, water levels are going to be about 1 to 3 feet above normal, and then perhaps 3 to 5 feet along the nature coast. I think more than likely because of that shorter time frame out over the Gulf. It's going to be closer to that 3 foot of the range there along the nature coast. Again, so that's why we have a storm surge warning for coastal Pasco County and north. Just to give you an idea of the timing here, though, our high tides for today and tonight, the first one is going to be around early to mid-afternoon in Crystal River around 3 o'clock. Just after that, Hudson around 2. You can see Clearwater Beach around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You're already starting to see more of a water level rise there with an onshore wind. Anna Maria Island around 2:26 in the afternoon. St. Pete around 4:30, and then a secondary high tide after midnight tonight. So during both of those high tides, we could perhaps see a little bit of coastal flooding out there. In terms of rainfall amounts, we are starting to see some updates here. Again, around now well over an inch in St. Pete, Clearwater, Tampa, McDill, Bradenton. I would not be surprised if we double those numbers by the end of the day. You can see Zephyr Hills now, after you have been through that band there, that heavier band, you're over 2 inches of rain. Again, I would not be surprised if we see some isolated 3-inch totals or more. We've already seen some reports from unofficial gauges in some spots of around 3 inches or so, or more than that, particularly in Polk City. Winds right now, though, again, they're out of the northwest in Clearwater right now at 37, sustained at 23 in Tampa, but gusting to 43, gusting to 38 in McDill, gusting to 43 in Brooksville. Wind gusts have come down just a little bit in most spots, but Bradenton, you're still up above 50 miles an hour for that recent gust, and notice how they start to go down a little bit in Polk County as that center has passed to your northwest. And so gradual decrease in the winds when you get on the southeastern side of the system. Nicole will likely be very close to the nature coast, if not a little bit out over the Gulf as we head into the afternoon. Again, that's where we could see a little bit of coastal flooding as the center moves to the northwest. Again, you see that onshore wind starting to develop as we head into the afternoon today. Still some rain left over in the afternoon as well. It's probably not going to come down as consistently or as hard as what we're seeing right now in some spots. But again, an additional, 1 to 2 inches, if not some isolated higher amounts on top of what we already have this morning as we head through the rest of the day. Again, we could see another band develop on the backside of this system, but it's not going to be as wide or far-reaching as what we're seeing this morning. Still an onshore wind tonight. Again, low tide is going to be around supper time and into the early evening for us along most of our coastline, and then a secondary high tide after midnight tonight, still with an onshore wind. So 2 opportunities to see some minor coastal flooding in some spots. Again, I would say early afternoon and then after midnight tonight. And then by Friday, we're looking at a significant improvement out there. You can see a couple of showers here and there as we head through the day, but overall much improved compared to what we have out there right now. So it looks like really we start to see things improve later tonight and into Friday as well with some clearing skies. Today, again, mid-70s, windy and rainy out there, but I'll show you when we'll start to see some improvements in the forecast coming up here in less than 10 minutes or so. Now, right now, though, I do want to send it on over to Tim Ronka in the Real-Time Traffic Center. Tim, how's everything moving out there this morning right now?
Hey, good morning again, Kyle. Thank you for all the work you guys are doing there in the Weather Center this morning. And, on the roads, it pretty much is what you would expect right now. With a storm like this moving through, we have a lot of areas where it's not really the greatest conditions to be driving through. Here's that spot in Pasco County right now where some of that storm is moving through. So roads like 54, 52, 75, and US 301 are not going to have the best of conditions right now. Here's a look at the Howard Franklin Bridge, one of our real-time traffic cams provided by DOT. You can see how we are looking very bad through this area in terms of those conditions right now. A lot of wind, a lot of rain, and low visibility right now, as you can see. Not the best drive to get across the bridge right now. A little bit further to the south on 275, this is the entrance to the Skyway Bridge, and it has been shut down now for some time this morning. We have a couple of FHP patrollers out there right now. Traffic's being routed back to the northbound side. Thankfully, it looks pretty light there right now, which is good. So you can see that not only do you have the FHP cruisers there, but just look at this shot in general. Look at all the wind. Look at all the rain. And so that gives you a good idea of what we're looking at right now. I interviewed FHP about an hour ago live on the show, and they were telling me how they recommend folks stay inside. So that's really good advice for you. If you do have to be out there, certainly give yourself extra time and just use some of those common sense safety tips that are always out there in a storm like this. Going to send things now back over to the desk with Georgia and Roy.
As Nicole continues to bring down heavy rain all across Florida, it's also starting to undo some of the progress at the St. Johns River over in central Florida because that river had been flooding.
Yeah, we've been following this all morning. Hurricane Ian caused catastrophic flooding around many cities surrounding that river, including Sanford. That's where Spectrum Bay News 9's Jesse Canales joins us live from Lake Monroe. And Jesse reports that the St. Johns River, the water levels there near Sanford are rising again. Hey, Jesse.
Hey, how's it going, guys? That's right. According to our weather experts, the water at the St. Johns River is now about 7 feet. What that means is the Lake Monroe on to the right of me, that has been going above the seawall, going into roads, walkways, and this is a residential neighborhood in Sanford's downtown. So you can see the debris and some of the mess it caused, and some of the roads here, they're starting to show some signs of flooding, nowhere near what we saw during Hurricane Ian. That's something that the residents are at least grateful for, that it's not as catastrophic as we saw during Hurricane Ian, but it's not good news that St. Johns River is continuing to rise. It's expected to rise to 7.7 feet. What that means is secondary roads on along Lake Monroe will become flooded and impassable in many places. This after about a month of catastrophic flooding in this area. So we'll continue to monitor the situation here in downtown Sanford. For now, reporting live in Seminole County, Jessica Ellis, Spectrum Bay News 9.
All right, Jesse, thank you. And that's something that we've been talking about leading up to this storm, the fears that the damage from Hurricane Ian, the leftover damage, the debris that's there, the saturated ground, that when this storm came through, it was just going to amplify those impacts that they had already been dealing with.
Yeah, consequences after that big storm. Yeah. And, it had been very quiet earlier on in the hurricane season, and we're getting this late season storm again, like in 2020. Time now for a check of your weather on the nines with Chief Meteorologist Mike Clay. Mike, this storm is moving pretty quickly, though, across the state, right?
Yeah, and, it is a late season storm, so that's kind of a good part about that, because it is being pushed along by the other weather systems affecting the country, and it is moving along at a pretty good clip. So no stall like we've seen in the past. Let's see what it looks like with those rainfall totals. You were talking about that with that report, and you can see this band has produced a lot of rain from the west side of Orlando back to Pasco County, over 2 inches, in some cases maybe close to 3 inches in here, and some of that will end up in the St. Johns River, and some of it also in the Withlacoochee, which isn't in flood. We're also keeping an eye on the power outages right now. These numbers continue to climb. We're looking at over 76,000 people without power over on the East Coast. over into the Orlando area, 34,000 without power right now. And into the Bay Area, we're starting to see the numbers climb. Over 12,000 people without power in Hillsborough, Pinellas, and in Pasco County each. So that circulation here is coming across portions of Pasco County, and those heavy rain bands continue to move through the Bay Area and back into Manatee County. So, Kyle, looks like that circulation is going to move across Pasco County within the next couple of hours, and then an abrupt wind shift on the backside of that.
Yeah, as it's moving very quickly along. And as you can see there, yeah, a lot of the rain is on the southwestern side of that system, particularly over Pinellas County is where we've seen a lot of that rainfall so far this morning. And it's really been focused there. That band hasn't really moved much. So I do want to take you back out to St. Petersburg. A live look right now with our crowncars.com camera. Certainly very windy, rainy, some reduced visibility because of all that rain coming down pretty hard. And with that northwest wind, it's been cooler, 69 degrees. A west-northwest sustained wind at 22 miles an hour in St. Pete. But, of course, those wind gusts are higher than that at times, gusting to 47 miles an hour. So it's the brief gust there over tropical storm force in St. Pete. Sustained still at 37 in Clearwater. Gusting to 43 in Tampa, gusting to 43 in Brooksville, 31 in Crystal River. I do expect up in Hernando and Citrus County as that center and that the stronger bands of rain on the western side of that center start to approach those areas up in Citrus County. Our wind gusts will go up and then gradually to the south and east over the next couple of hours. We may start to see a gradual decrease in those winds that we're already seeing in Polk County. Still going to be windy out there, but I think we're pretty much right at the peak wind speeds currently right now across Pinellas County and south into Manatee and also Hillsborough County as well. Nicole continues to head to the northwest. We get a new advisory that will come out at 10. The last advisory we're at 60 miles an hour for the sustained wind, and it's starting to lose a little bit of its structure, so I wouldn't be surprised if with the next advisory we see some weakening here, but I still expect some wind gusts possibly over 50 miles an hour as well over the next few hours. And with that onshore wind, especially as we head into the midday and afternoon, some coastal flooding will be possible where we have the storm surge warning across the Nature Coast, 3 to 5 feet of elevated water levels. So that's above normal water levels there along the coast, and still 1 to 3 feet to the south where we don't have a storm surge warning, but we'll call it minor coastal flooding across parts of the Tampa Bay area and even coastal Pinellas and Manatee County as well. As you can see here, as we head into the afternoon, we start to see that onshore wind. For most of us, high tide is anywhere between about 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. depending on your exact spot. And unfortunately at that time, we will have an onshore wind, but it will not be for very long. So it's not like this thing is sitting out in the Gulf for very long. So it doesn't have the amount of time as some other storms have had in the past that would lead to coastal, more significant coastal flooding. So that is somewhat good news here. And that tide will come down as we head into the evening. Still over land, we have some rain here and there, but these bands are going to be a little bit weaker and not as persistent as the ones that we're seeing this morning. So tonight, we may still have some heavier bands earlier in the night, but then after midnight, that's when we start to see some improvement here across our area. Still a little bit gusty with those winds, but the wind speeds gradually come down tonight and into Friday. Still a few leftover showers, but by Friday, this thing is moving across, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, across the Appalachians. So by that point, we're just talking, a couple of showers left over on Friday. Still breezy to windy out there, but overall significant improvement compared to what we're dealing with out there today. Additional rainfall here again, I think. On top of what we already have, we could see an additional inch or two across the Nature Coast and south across Pinellas County into Manatee County. I don't expect much more rain, though, across Polk County. It is mostly out of here by then. You can see your 7-day forecast here. Generally going to see improving conditions overnight tonight into tomorrow. We're looking at temperatures mostly in the low 80s Friday, Saturday. Still kind of breezy, but by Sunday and Monday, definitely much cooler as a cold front moves on through with mid-70s out there. And then 50s for overnight lows Sunday night into Monday, starting to warm up a bit as we head toward the middle of next week. But right now, I do want to send it over to Tim Bronca in the traffic center. Tim, how's everything moving out there?
Good morning. Thanks again, Kyle. And thanks again to everyone on our weather team for helping us break down this storm here. Taking a live look at 275 in Pinellas County, one of our real-time traffic cams provided by DOT, and a good indication of how your road conditions are looking like right now in Pinellas County. As you just saw from Klystron 9, so much of that wind and rain right now is just sitting over Pinellas County, and this is what it looks like a lot through the county right now. Just a lot of wind blowing through this camera here. And the flashing lights you're seeing there from FHP, that is going going to be at the entrance ramp to the 275 area of the Skyway Bridge. That is currently shut down, closed down at about 7 o'clock, and FHP told us in an interview they shut it down because they had wind speeds of 50 miles per hour sustained at the top of the bridge. Typically, if it's at about 40 miles per hour, that's when they'll make a decision to shut it down. So something to keep in mind, a Skyway Bridge between Pinellas County and Manatee County is not opened at the moment. I want to take a look here at 75 and State Road 52, one of our real-time traffic cams provided by DOT in this area. And this is another spot where we've seen a lot of the storm moving through right now here in this southeastern corner of Pasco County. State Road 52 and 75 right in that zone. Take a look at all the rain here on the lens. You can see it's not, again, just not the best of conditions if you're heading out in that direction right now. We'll have an updated look at how things are looking on the roads coming up for you soon.
Here are your winning lottery numbers.
I am what child hunger looks like in America. I am a 9-year-old boy who hopes a friend invites me to a sleepover so I can have dinner. I am a 15-year-old girl who goes for walks during lunch so my friends won't know I don't have anything to eat. I was created by artificial intelligence from faces of the 1 in 7 American children who struggle with hunger.
Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Stop! Don't buy another social campaign. What? The Spectrum Reach ad portal puts our business on the best of TV and streaming. You can do it yourself, run in our computer, and we can afford it. You're me? I'm you, but wiser. The ad portal helps us grow. It targets customers right down to the zip code. You came back in time. Wait, right down to the zip code? And put Siggy in the ads. The customers love him.
Advertise on live TV and streaming. The future of your business will thank you. Spectrum Reach, one advertising partner, and done.
It's so sad.
It's not.
Where did the time go? Somehow I lost all those years. Where did the time go? I don't know how I got here. Or how did I get here? I can see now.
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Your morning news, presented by Chevrolet and your local Chevy dealers.
We continue our coverage of Tropical Storm Nicole. I'm Roy DeJesus.
And I'm Georgia Roman. Thanks so much for joining us. Here's your Spectrum News in 90 update. Pasco County is temporarily halting county services today because of Nicole. Right now, we're showing you a live look on the other side of the state, Flagler Beach. You can see conditions still rough there, the water rough, but hours ago we saw much more heavy wind, heavy rain, so things looking to calm down a bit there, but you can see the waves still crashing. Now, over in Pasco County, trash and recycling collection services and Go Pasco bus services will be suspended, and all Pasco County parks and recreation events also canceled.
Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority plans to keep bus services open today, but PSTA will halt services. The storm has sustained winds of 40 miles per hour. If paused, PSTA will resume service as soon as possible after the storm passes.
The Hillsborough County Expressway Authority says the reversible express lanes on the Selman Expressway will be turned eastbound, and they're going to remain that way through the weekend, so normal hours of operation will resume at 6 a.m. on Monday.
That's a bit of what we're following you at 9:31 this morning. Now a check of your Class 9 forecast with meteorologist Mike Clay. Mike, how is the storm looking right now?
Another storm, Roy. We've had a lot of these, haven't we, over the years? Yeah. Here we go again. The tropical storm, and thank goodness it wasn't a stronger hurricane when it came ashore, is moving through our area right now. So we've been getting, and we're getting now, the worst weather that we're going to have out of all of this. And here you can see the center of circulation is very much near Wesley Chapel and Zephyr Hills, and everything's circulating around that. But we've had this persistent band of heavy rain on the Pinellas side, and it's really been coming down in Pinellas and Manatee counties. And then on the backside, we're seeing some nice drying. The winds are going to be doing that, but that backside is beginning to fill in a little bit over portions of Polk County. So the radar rainfall estimates are increasing in Pinellas County. We've had about 2 to 2.5 inches of rain in southern Pinellas County. The rain keeps coming down and the winds are up there. Now let's check on those tide levels. We'll be watching these all day. Meteorologist Kyle Hansen joins us now. And Kyle, those tide levels were at low tide, so we'll watch as we head towards high tide later. And the high tides are worse because of the astronomical tides this time of year.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the case with the king tides. But right now, of course, we are pretty much at low tide in most spots. But you can see here, this is an observation from the St. Pete gauge here for the tide levels. It's a little bit over a foot of what the predicted tide was. That blue line showing the predicted tide. One of these hash marks, by the way, that equals a foot. So you can see it's a little bit over a foot of rise. And I do expect that to continue as we head into the afternoon, especially across the Tampa Bay area, coastal Pinellas. And as we head into, say, Clearwater Beach, we're seeing some elevated tides as well. That's where we could see some minor coastal flooding, coastal Manatee too, and a little bit more water level rise as you go north towards the Nature Coast. In the meantime, through the rest of the day today, decreasing showers and heavier bands of rain as we head into the afternoon. The worst of it's right now, still going to be very windy through the day, but we'll see a gradual decrease in that. I'm going to time that out hour by hour in our forecast model coming up here in about the next 10 minutes or so.
9:34. We're going to check back in live with real-time traffic expert Tim Ronca. And Tim, a couple things happening. Obviously, the wind at this point, but we're also getting reports, St. Pete Police saying that some traffic lights are out. Clearwater Police saying some power lines are down. So a couple of things for drivers to really watch out for today. Be careful.
That's right, Georgia. Yeah, for the first time this morning, we're really starting to see those reports come in now of traffic lights being out, power lines being down. I'll have more on that coming up for you in a few minutes. I do want to start this report, though, just to show you what current conditions look like right now in Pinellas County. And as you just saw from Kyle and Mike, a lot of that rain is coming down right now in Pinellas County. So this is 275 and Pinellas Point Drive at the southern end of the county. And the cruisers you're seeing here, or I should say the road rangers actually is a better description, they are there because they have the road shut down for the Skyway Bridge. So that's what you're looking at there. So traffic's being routed off around that. And the Skyway Bridge likely going to be shut down for some time this morning. Let's take a look in Polk County, I-4 at the Paul Buckman. And this is another area we've had a lot of wind and rain moving through. And it looks like we had a car kind of get turned around here. And there might be more involved in this crash site just outside of our camera range. But just one lane getting through there. And you can see it's not very pleasant out there either. All the rain coming on the lens and the wind through the area and things like that. So certainly the best advice from Florida Highway Patrol at this point is to stay home if you can. If you do have to be out there, you definitely want to take some extra time and follow all those common sense safety tips that are always out there. We'll have an update on conditions coming up for you in just a few minutes. Georgia, Roy.
Time now 9:35 this morning. Florida's Space Coast was hit hard as Nicole came ashore overnight, and they're still dealing with impacts.
Yeah, strong winds and steady rain blanketed Brevard County all morning long. We've been showing you those images. Spectrum Bay News 9's Will Robinson-Smith joins us in Cocoa Village with a look at conditions there.
We're in the middle of Cocoa Village in the city of Cocoa in Brevard County, just off of the Indian River. And right now, we're still experiencing a lot of winds. No clearer example of that than just to the right of that Cocoa police car at Lee Winter Park. You can see a number of boats that have washed against the wall of the park here and are just battering and banging against that seawall that's bracing against the edge of the park. Just one example of a number around the Space Coast that we've seen throughout this storm event, from when it was Hurricane Nicole, now Tropical Storm Nicole, and the winds continue to be relentless, causing a lot of power outages and down trees here in the city of Cocoa. There's one up a little farther north. We've heard about a large tree down blocking Main Road over on Merritt Island, and a number of power outages and impacts in places like Satellite Beach as well as Melbourne Beach. Want to point out something real quick. If we go back over here, you see that truck that was trying to go through, and the Cocoa police officer honked the horn saying, "Nuh-uh." And that's because we've seen a lot of people trying to get a lot of photos and, just sightsee. The types of things that emergency officials have been trying to stress is not the thing to do right now. Now is not the time to come out and take pictures. That time will come as we get past this storm event, when it's safer, when the winds and the rains die down. But for now, emergency officials are encouraging you and asking you to remain at home and ride this thing out. And there will be a time soon when you can go out and take a look at the impacts left behind by Nicole. Reporting on scene in Cocoa Village, Will Robinson-Smith, Spectrum News.
Thanks, Will. And obviously, the big news next week would have been that launch on Monday.
Yeah.
That has been moved to 2 days after that, and we'll see how the conditions are after the storm leaves all of Florida.
Yeah, we're going to have to see. They're going to have a lot of work there to do as well to assess any possible damage. Right now, I want to bring it back here to the Bay Area, take you through some of the power outages that we are seeing across the Bay Area right now. So here is a look at TECO right now, about 16,000 customers without power. And we know from Angie's live reports throughout the morning that these power companies are working really hard to try to get these outages fixed and get people's power back on. Let's take a look at Duke Energy right now. So if we're looking at the Pinellas County area, we've got about 20,000 people without power. Over in the Central Florida, Orlando area, we've got over 70,000 people without power right now. So again, Duke Energy telling us they're working as quickly as they can to restore power for everyone, but they do prioritize it based on hospitals, first responders, fire stations, police stations. They have to focus first on the critical needs across the county, and then they will spread out. So they're asking for patience this morning, but they have been able to restore power in some places already. So that work is underway.
Yeah, because that critical mile per hour is 30 miles per hour, and they can go out and do that work while the storm is still on top of us. So good news there. And Nicole, also having an impact on travel.
Yeah.
Flights out of Tampa International Airport are seeing delays and cancellations. You can see the amount of canceled flights so far this morning at Tampa International, according to FlightAware. Several dozen cancellations, just about 20 or so delays, and we'll be keeping a track of that as well. You can also go to our website, and we'll have some information on that.
And Roy, across the country, more than 1,200 flights have been canceled because of this storm.
Effect.
Yeah, and there's other places that can't get in. We know airports all across Florida. In Orlando, they're closed today. So this is impacting travel, not just here in Florida, but really all across the country right now.
So you can find more information on the impacts of Nicole on our website and the Spectrum News app. Don't forget about that. Everyone can stream Spectrum Bay News 9 for free right now without a login until the storm passes. We've got more team coverage later this morning and how impacts are in Central and East Florida as well. And we'll be having that information you throughout the day.
And right now, we're just past 9:39, so we want to head back over to the Weather Center, check in live with Chief Meteorologist Mike Clay. Mike, we've been watching this storm cross the state, and now here in Pinellas County, we're getting the impacts that, those on the east side of the coast had earlier this morning.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, we were watching this last week south of Puerto Rico.
Right.
And here it is right on top of us now. The center of circulation is over Pasco, northern Hillsborough County. And you're right, Georgia, we are getting the the impacts now in our area right on schedule as it crosses our area. The center of circulation looks to be very close, just north of Tampa, right in here, with the winds coming in out of the northwest and then coming in on the backside up through Polk County from the south. So as this passes by, and many of you will be in the center, as this passes by on the backside, you're going to get a pretty abrupt wind shift into a different direction. Now, this band has set up over Pinellas County and back into Manatee County, and it has really been producing heavy rain. Look at that enhanced area where you see the darker orange. See how that comes in off the Gulf and then covers much of Pinellas County right now with moderate to heavy rain. The totals are building up close to 3 inches now, and that goes down into the Bradenton area with these heavy squalls coming through. And there's the center of circulation. It's not like an eye, it's not like an Ian or anything like that, but that's your center of the tropical storm, and you can see how everything is rotating around that as it crosses very close to New Tampa and Lutz right now. So we've got some pretty good winds out there. Kyle Hansen's here to take a look at the current wind speeds, and not as high as we saw with those gusts in the 70s during Ian, but we're still getting some gusts into the 60s, Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen gusts 50, 60-something miles an hour. Highest so far about 68 miles an hour near Bel Air Bluff, so certainly a very windy morning out there. And right now, actually, we're seeing the highest sustained wind that we have had so far today in Clearwater. You can see that sustained wind at 43 miles an hour out of the northwest. Of course, you don't have friction over the Gulf, so you're going to get those highest sustained winds and highest gusts right along the coastline there. You can see elsewhere, though, gusts are still at tropical storm force. 47-mile-an-hour gust in St. Pete and Bradenton, 45 currently for that gust at McDill, and 43 for Tampa. I noticed those winds start to die down just a little bit on the eastern side, but you can see Lake Wales around a 41-mile-an-hour gust there recently, so still a little windy on the backside of this system. Of course, over in Clearwater, we've already started to see that onshore flow for several hours now, as well as the rest of coastal Pinellas and Manatee County, so we're starting to see some water rise there. So I do want to go over the high tide times where we could see some coastal flooding. I'm thinking that rise is going to be about, in most spots 2 to 4 feet above our typical water levels here, so I do expect some coastal flooding as we head toward high tide this afternoon. You can see Crystal River, that's about a little bit after 3 o'clock, Hudson around 2 o'clock or so, Clearwater Beach a little bit earlier at 1, and then St. Pete around 4:30, and then we have another high tide around or after midnight tonight. So those are 2 chances to see perhaps some coastal flooding out there, especially as Nicole moves out into a very extreme portion of the northeastern Gulf. It's basically going to be hugging the Nature Coast, the center of the system, as we head into the afternoon. Right now, winds are 60 miles an hour. We're starting to see that structure kind of break up a little bit, so we could see a little bit of weakening in future analysis here. In the meantime, again, as we head through the day today, Nicole moves out into the Nature Coast, maybe a little bit out into the Gulf. We still have a little bit of rain to deal with as we head into the afternoon. These bands are not going to be as consistent, but we do have an onshore flow pretty much all along our coastline, so that's why I'm saying we could see some coastal flooding through the afternoon, and then also another chance late overnight tonight. As we head into early Friday morning, again, we still have that onshore wind, but it starts to lighten up a bit. It starts to turn a little bit more out of the south. Still some leftover bands of rain here and there through Friday. And then as we head through the day on Friday, you can see here again, it is mostly dry actually throughout the day. A couple of lingering showers here and there. Winds gradually calm down. They'll be out of the southwest throughout the day on Friday. But again, we'll start to see those winds more so in that 20 to 30 mile an hour gust range for tomorrow. So that's a little bit more manageable. You can see those winds start to pull out as we head into the afternoon. Again, still windy this afternoon, but not as windy as this morning. We're talking gusts probably going to be back down below tropical storm force later this afternoon and tonight. Still, again, very windy out there, and then a significant improvement as we head toward Friday. Again, those gusts on Friday about that 20 to 30 mile an hour range. I'll show you, though, when we'll see a cold front move on through coming up here in about the next 10 minutes or so. Get some nice fall-like air in here, but in the meantime, I do want to send it over to Tim Ronka in the traffic center. How's everything moving out there right now, Tim?
Hey, good morning again, Kyle. Yeah, well, it's about as you'd expect right now. A lot of accidents out there, some power lines reported down. Also now some traffic lights out due to some of the power outages. So starting to see a lot of those same effects that you see after a storm comes through. Here's a new crash. This is going to be 275 and Ashley Drive, one of our real-time traffic cams provided by DOT. It's northbound 275, and this is right in downtown Tampa, so a very busy stretch of roadway. And you can see we have a car. It looks like they were turned around here with whatever happened, and so you you'll have a couple of lanes blocked, traffic just very slowly getting through that area. And you can see just not the best of road conditions either. A lot of wind and rain moving through this camera shot. So it gives you a good idea of what it's like out there right now. We also have this slowdown on I-4 in Polk County. This is going to be right at the Paul Buckman. You can see just one lane getting through here. It looks like another car got turned around. That's the sort of thing that we're seeing right now throughout the Bay Area, and likely going to see more of that as the storm continues to move through. So I'll pass along the updates on the roads as I get them.
I am blind, but I need not see. I know this road is there for me. If you're talking, they will hear you.
Why are we getting killed like this?
Kyle's not here. Got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Harsh.
Hey, he knew not to drink. We've made that clear to all of our kids, right?
No, not really.
Bill, if we don't tell them what we expect and why they shouldn't drink, how are they going to know?
Talk. They hear you. For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. We are Lions. We bring hope where it's needed. We are a global force for good. Join the movement. Support causes that matter. Change lives. Change communities. Change the world. We can do more together than we can alone. Join in. Experience the joy of serving. Be part of the movement. Give back. Let's unite the world for good. We are Lions. You can be too. Visit weserve.org.
Can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me something. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, no thanks, not my thing.
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
At 9:49 right now, and we continue to work our way through Nicole moving through the area, producing very heavy rain, and with that, some gusty winds, and we'll talk more about those winds. Now, we know where it is. It's right on top of us right now, and the center of circulation is literally just north of Tampa and in the area around New Tampa. So the center of circulation is right in here, and on the backside, your winds are going to shift more into a south direction and a northwest direction coming around like so on the front side. So it is a low-end tropical storm, but it's still a tropical storm, and it's still going to be with us for another few hours, and then it'll move out into the Gulf of Mexico as we head through the afternoon hours. And when it gets out into the Gulf of Mexico, that's when we'll get a stronger onshore wind, and we'll continue to see these waves pile up on the coast. And our Madeira beach camera shows you right now, those waves are coming on in, and they're going to be increasing. And so that's when we could expect some higher surf. You can already see the breakers are offshore. So what a difference from this time yesterday when this camera view was showing basically mostly clear skies. All right, we're going to go back to the control room, I believe. Go back to the control room. They have some breaking news.
So we want to take you over to Brevard County right now. We just spoke to Will Robinson-Smith. He's in Brevard County showing you the impacts of Nicole. He's right now showing us a live water rescue. Some folks out there in the water, and first responders are trying to retrieve him and see what's happening. See the images right here?
Yeah, let's see if we can listen live into Will's live report right now.
on the boat had a life jacket around their neck, and so we are certainly glad to see that this came to a positive conclusion there with the gentleman making it off the water. So see if we might be able to talk to him real quick after there's some initial checkouts.
So what you're watching there, this is out of Brevard County. So what we know is that a water rescue just took place moments ago. The water there, very choppy. We're trying to figure out the exact area that this is, but it looks to be Lake Monroe. It looks like Lake Monroe, but we're working to find out the exact information of exactly where this is happening. But what we saw was rough water. The rescue boat went out and they were able to rescue, at least I saw 2 individuals who were on a boat out there who needed help, and now they're back here, obviously getting checked out by first responders right now.
Yeah, and Will's been running around Brevard County showing us images all morning, and he happened to come across this water rescue happening right in front of him. So they started rolling and is giving this report. So as he mentioned, he's trying to see what happened, how it happened, and where this is all taking place. We know it's in Brevard County because that's where he was at.
And so we just learned this is the city of Cocoa in Brevard County. And look at that boat out there. That is where they were rescued from. And you can see, even though this storm has moved across the state, and right now giving you a look that probably the Coast Guard above helping the first responders on the ground there to be able to locate them and help rescue the individuals who were stuck there. But to give you an idea, this storm, as we know, we're dealing with the worst impacts right now when it comes to rain and wind, but it is such a wide storm that they're still seeing impacts along the East Coast, because you can see it's still raining, it is still windy, that water is still very choppy there.
Yeah, those bands stretching from coast to coast, from the east to the west, and you see somebody probably went on their boat thinking it was okay and got stuck. It probably water coming into the boat and needed to get the rescue.
Yeah, it's a scary situation. Let's bring back in Chief Meteorologist Mike Clay, joining us live in our Weather Center, and Meteorologist Kyle Hansen also joining us this morning to give us the latest. And this is exactly why we hear from first responders, do not go out on the water when we have conditions like this. It's really dangerous.
And there's a lot of those lakes over there, and it's still going to be windy into the evening, I think there, Kyle. It's going to come up across and exit into the Gulf of Mexico, but we're still going to have pretty hazardous conditions as we head into the evening. Now, you have the brand new advisory, which really doesn't matter that much anymore because we know where it is. It's north of Tampa, but still it's worth looking at.
Yeah, it's pretty much right over us right now. I mean, it's good to look at also the updated wind speeds as well. The wind is currently at 50 miles an hour. Officially, that's center as of the 10 o'clock advisory, 25 miles northeast of Tampa. Of course, it's right pretty much over the eastern side of Pasco County. As it continues to move northwest, it's going to start to bend a little bit more towards the north as we head towards tonight. Notice we could see this come over the Gulf. It could make a second landfall in the Big Bend of Florida here, east of Apalachicola, later tonight, and then it will quickly move off to the north into Georgia by midnight tonight. You can see right now again, and with Nicole kind of coming out into the Gulf a little bit, we could see a little bit of surge along the Nature Coast, just enough surge, in fact, that we still have a storm surge warning in place for their primary timetable for that would be in the afternoon as we go into high tide, and then a secondary high tide after midnight tonight. Some minor coastal flooding possible, actually even towards Tampa Bay as well. I do want to show you some of the water levels currently. This is actually at a Clearwater Beach. This is where we've had a persistent northwest wind. You can see the blue line here is the predicted tide level. You can see actually our current water level is where high tide would be, which is actually not until 1 o'clock this afternoon. So it's a little bit over a foot currently right now of water level rise, and we could see a little bit more as we see that persistent northwest wind as we head into the afternoon. You can see that here. It starts to turn a little bit more out of the west, to due west, basically a directly onshore flow there in Clearwater Beach and really across the rest of our coastline. So again, we could be close to that 3-foot mark in some spots for water level rise later this afternoon and into tonight. By this evening, though, again, we're looking at, still a few rain bands left over here. Not as many, though, and they're not going to be as intense. I think an additional inch or two of rain is possible in most of our coastal counties. Isolated amounts could be out of, the total. We've already seen 2 inches of rain or more in some spots spots, we could see some areas end up with more than 4 inches of rain. I don't think everyone sees that. That's more of an isolated amount that we would see by the time everything is all said and done. You can say as we head into Friday, though, much improved for the morning commute on Friday. Generally looking at partly cloudy skies, some peaks of sunshine here and there, and a few showers. That is going to be it. Winds will come down during the day on Friday. So in general, a much improved forecast through the day on Friday. So here's your 7-day. Generally in the mid-70s today, windy but breezy as we head into Friday still. Temps in the low 80s for Friday and Saturday. Then we get a cold front to come through Saturday night. Look at that, low 60s to start the day on Sunday, some 50s north, and even some 40s in our northern counties Sunday night into Monday. And then as we head into early next week, we start to see a gradual warm-up, but still nice and dry with temperatures in the low 80s. Perhaps a little bit of humidity returns for Wednesday. Now here's a look at Klystron 9.
Here's a look at what's happening in our community. Brought to you by Brandon Ford. Find the biggest selection at the world's largest volume Ford truck dealer.
This is living proof that there can be life beyond cancer. At Baptist Health, we've treated more breast, colon, and lung cancer patients than any other health system in Kentucky and southern Indiana. Learn more at baptisthealth.com/cancercare.
I am what child hunger looks like in America. I am a 9-year-old boy who hopes a friend invites me to a sleepover so I can have dinner. I am a 15-year-old girl who goes for walks during lunch so my friends won't know I don't have anything to eat. I was created by artificial intelligence from faces of the 1 in 7 American children who struggle with hunger.
Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
The day that JD was injured, I had woke up to an odd phone call. It was the military calling to tell me that he had stepped on an IED.
The day I got injured, she got wounded as well. And the veterans wouldn't be the men that we are and the women that we are today if it wasn't for our better half helping us every direction we go.
Find the nonprofits that support veterans. Offer your time if you don't have the financial resources to offer. There's always a way to help.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
Eleanor steals your heart. She was diagnosed at 5 weeks old, a type of leukemia, and it's associated with Down syndrome. She's been fighting against the odds since the day she was born. Talking to the doctors and nurses, they were on top of it. They got this, we got this, it's gonna be okay, and we're gonna get through this. Here, it's like a celebration of life. There's so much great stuff happening. The doctors and nurses are her best friends, and you can tell that they love her, and you could tell she loves them, and that relationship is just amazing. We're just so grateful for them.
News presented by Chevrolet and your local Chevy dealers.
Good morning. We're so glad to have you with us here on Spectrum Bay News 9. I'm Georgia Browman.
And I'm Roy DeJesus. This is your Spectrum News in 90. Nicole made landfall just south of Vero Beach this morning, making history as the latest in a calendar year a hurricane has ever struck Florida's Atlantic coast. Nicole, now a tropical storm, became the first hurricane to make landfall in November in the U.S. in nearly 40 years.
And because of Nicole, schools in all of our Bay Area counties are closed today. Hillsborough, Polk, Manatee, Hernando, and Citrus counties will remain closed on Friday for Veterans Day. That's tomorrow. But Pasco and Pinellas schools plan to reopen then.
Theme park closures as well today. Busch Gardens, Disney World, Universal, and SeaWorld all closed this morning as Nicole continues on its path across the state. Disney and Universal both plan on reopening parks later this afternoon. Busch Gardens and SeaWorld will welcome guests back tomorrow.
All throughout the morning, we have team coverage for you on Tropical Storm Nicole. We're going to start this hour with your Cholesterol 9 forecast. Meteorologist Josh Linker joining us live in the Weather Center with the latest look at Nicole. Where's the worst weather right now, Josh?
Well, the worst weather continues to be, Georgia, on the west side of the circulation. And as we look at Cholesterol 9, this is how we're going to be tracking the center. The center is right in here. It looks like it's just northeast into northeastern Hillsborough, eastern Pasco. That's the center. But the heaviest rain continues to be on the west and southwest side of the center right now, and the strongest wind continues to be on the west and north side of this circulation right now. So we're still dealing with some rather heavy rain across the area, and we're also dealing with some of that gusty wind. But now the wind is starting to come in from the west. We look at the circulation here, southwest wind now in Lakeland, so the center has passed you by. A northwest wind in Tampa with a gust of 43 miles per hour. And this is the kind of thing we're going to be looking at. Now, the storm itself is going to continue to weaken somewhat. We're still going to have some very gusty weather, and the next attention that we're going to pay is going to be to this onshore wind. So the water levels will rise a little bit here along the coast as we go through the afternoon high tide time. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a few minutes.
Time now, 10:02, and a check of your real-time traffic with Tim Ronca, who's still checking and keeping an eye on the roadways. Tim, what are you looking at right now? Where are the problems?
Hey again, Roy and Georgia. Well, it's just generally not very nice outside, as you've heard from Josh. And driving around right now, the conditions aren't that great. I do want to start with a new shot of the Skyway Bridge, one of our real-time traffic cams provided by DOT. Sort of the signature image here whenever we have a storm come through of no one going over the bridge. That's because it's been shut down now for about 3 hours. It was closed at 7 o'clock this morning due to sustained winds of 50 miles per hour at the top of the bridge. It also gives you a good idea of what conditions are like right now. You saw on the radar there from Cholesterol 9 all of the rain that is now covering this part of the area right now, and you can see a lot of that rain in the shot. Of course, the waves are also getting whipped up and stuff like that too, so just not very nice right now on the roadways. Here's a look in downtown Tampa right now. We have a crash 275 at Ashley Drive, and it looks like weather was definitely a factor here. Some of the cars were spun out and things like that, so definitely use caution if you're on the roadways right now. I'll have an update on how conditions are looking coming up for you soon. Georgia, Roy.
We are starting to see damage from Tropical Storm Nicole here in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, and as Josh mentioned at the top of the 10, the worst of it happening in the northern counties, Pasco County right now. The storm toppled a car port in Pasco County. That's where Spectrum Bay News 9 Melissa Eichmann joins us live in Port Richey to show us what that looks like. Hey, Melissa, what are you looking at? What's happening over there?
Good morning, Roy. Good morning, Georgia. We are in Port Richey. We're in a neighborhood here where we talked with a homeowner who showed us her carport. Now, this used to be standing. Of course, you can see it's made its way to the front yard. And you can see it's still rainy and windy out here. The flag is flapping in the wind, the banana tree there. And let's take a listen to what happened to this homeowner early this morning when that carport came crashing down.
The wind took it out. It's been bobbing since early this morning, and we had come out earlier and tried to secure it as best we could. And I had walked past it and saw it going really bad, so he was going to come out, and my husband come out and try to secure it. As soon as he opened the door, the wind just took it completely off, and it wound up over in the banana trees, took out my bananas. So.
Everyone is safe, though. It did not damage the car, and thank goodness, again, everyone inside is safe. The family's lived here about 7 years, and she said they just couldn't secure it, and it is beyond repair. And as you can see, the other part of the carport there is also compromised. So thank goodness everyone here is safe. I talked with some of the other neighbors. So far, this has been the only damage we've found in this neighborhood. Thank goodness. So we're going to take another look around for you and let you know what else we find. We'll check in with you in a little bit. For now, we're live in Pasco County. Melissa Eichmann, Spectrum News. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Melissa. And that's like aftermath video and images while the storm's still trekking through. And anytime there's a severe storm, Bayshore Boulevard, a usual suspect, is known to flood.
Yeah, we want to head to Hillsborough County now because that storm moving over downtown Tampa, soaking that area. Our Jason Lanning is joining us live downtown to show us what it's looking like there. What'd you find, Jason?
Well, thankfully, no flooding and no damage, so some very good news right now. We do expect a press conference from Tampa's mayor in the 11 a.m. hour, around 11:30, to get an update on how things are going. But when you're out and about, things don't look bad at all. Within the past hour, we did see a wind gust of 46 miles an hour, according to a local weather station, an unofficial number right there. I want to give you a live look where we are, right behind Tampa's Convention Center, Bayshore Boulevard off to your right, and this is Garrison Channel on the north side of Tampa General Hospital. You can see the water not really even all too choppy right now. That could change later as the winds potentially change this afternoon, but for now, we're looking very good. We heard Tim Ronka just a few minutes ago talk about the conditions on the roads. And as we drove in, there wasn't a lot of traffic like you would normally see, of course, on a normal day. But that's where you get into the more problematic situation of the wind-driven rain out on Interstate 4, specifically between Lakeland and Tampa. That is still obviously a problem spot. We saw no accidents, but of course the cars that are out moving very slowly. But when you're standing now in Tampa in a static location, not all too bad, and we are not hearing again of any major flooding or damage. So certainly good news here to report from downtown Tampa at this hour. Back to you.
Jason, thank you. That is some really good news. That's what we want to see. And hopefully what Melissa was dealing with in Pasco County is not what we see widespread across the Tampa Bay area. Something we are seeing, though, really all across the state is power outages from this storm.
Yeah, Duke Energy already reporting nearly 100,000 outages statewide. Thousands of residents in Pinellas County in the Bay Area also without electricity. Let's go live right now with Spectrum Bay News 9's Angie Andrews outside Tropicana Field. That's where Duke Energy is staging during the storm, and as it clears through, they'll be ready to hop on and start making some of those fixes. Hey, Angie.
Roy and Georgia, I've certainly learned a lot this morning talking to utility crews out here at Tropicana Field. So there's 5 different staging areas that look just like this one around the state. That way, when winds calm down, they can all head out in different directions. So I learned what those threshold numbers are. When winds go below 39 miles an hour sustained, that's when the crews can actually head out of here and start looking around for damage and kind of surveying the area, but it has to be below 30 miles an hour for them to be able to get those bucket trucks up in the air. But I do want to show you some video that we shot just a short time ago. Very good news to report here of some crews finally making their way out of Tropicana Field to survey that damage. So right now we're at almost 100,000 power outages for Duke customers, and while the linemen haven't been able to get hands-on yet, some outages have already been fixed through some new technology. Duke calls it a self-healing technology. They can basically diagnose smaller problems remotely, but of course those bigger issues have to be done by those linemen in the field. So first they start by restoring power at places like hospitals, police stations, and for first responders, and then of course it's on to everybody else. Take a listen.
We go through major infrastructure like our transmission lines, substations. If we can fix major infrastructure like that, that might put 10 or 20,000 customers on back in a blink. Then we go down to an outage that might affect 1,000 customers, then 100, then 10, then ones.
We're seeing a little bit more movement out here, and of course movement is good. We've also seen some of these linemen get off of these charter buses and go into their utility vehicles. All signs that we're going to start making some action here soon when those winds start to die down. Now here at Tropicana Field, they have help from people in the Carolinas, and then over on the other side of I-4 in Orlando, they have help from people all the way from the Midwest in the state of Ohio. But for now, reporting live, Tropicana Field, back to you guys at the desk.
All right, Angie, thank you. That's exactly what people want to hear, is that they're able to, start to make those repairs and make those fixes so that people can have their power back on. Before we head over to the Weather Center for another check of your forecast, we want to show you this live look right now, Madeira Beach. Usually this time of day, it's sunny, a lot of people taking a walk. That's just not the case today. We've got this storm moving through, a lot of rain, a lot of wind, and you can see how choppy the water is from Nicole.
Yeah, and that's the case coast to coast in Florida right now.
Right.
We saw some horrible images out in the East Coast and see the conditions over here. Just past 10:09, let's get your weather on the nines with Josh Linker. So Josh, a couple of things here that are to our benefit. First of all, late season storm, which is November, so the water is cooler, and it came through the East Coast, so we didn't have what we're seeing over in the East Coast.
No, that is true, but there is still the potential, Roy, for a bit of an onshore flow that's now starting to come in, and that could lead to some coastal concerns. I do not believe it'll be as bad as the East Coast just because we have a weakening storm, and there will be a shorter duration with this onshore wind, but it is something we're keeping an eye on, and I'll begin with that. With the water level. So what you're looking at here is a chart, and the blue line that you see is what the predicted normal tide was. So this is the current point in time right here. So we're on our way toward a high tide. We're running about a foot. This is the observation at Clearwater Beach, by the way. We're running about a foot above the predicted. Now, for some perspective, this current level is lower than the previous normal high tide. So we're not at any kind of over concern yet. What we want to watch is as we get to the next high tide, there's a relative low tide. If these water levels continue to rise as the tide should be going down, that's where we'll start to see the potential for some problems. So we'll keep an eye on that. Again, the next high tide is coming up in a few hours, and then there's another one overnight tonight. So that would be the highest one, and hopefully by then the overall wind pattern will subside enough that it may not be a huge problem, but it's definitely something that we're going to watch along our coast from Pinellas County northward. That is where we'll have that biggest concern. Otherwise, we have the wind, and we've had some damage out there. This is a picture sent to us through the Spectrum News app from Stephanie at Bayonet Point. We're seeing some, what looks like maybe a shed or something like that along a dock or a coastal area here where there are some boats and just some debris that has come down from the stronger wind that is out there. And as far as the winds go, we're still getting some gusts at around 40 or so miles per hour. I would expect the occasional 50-mile-an-hour gust as some of these rain bands come through. The center is located right about, actually it looks like it's now just north of Zephyr Hills. Zephyr Hills reporting a west wind and a north wind in Brooksville. So that is a good indication that the center is right basically in between those two, still north winds in Clearwater, but these west to northwest winds coming in right around Tampa Bay, and that's why we're going to start to see those water levels coming up just a little bit. Looking at the big picture here, we talked about the wind field, and that is in part because of the low pressure area with Nicole, but also a big high to the north, and we have this pretty significant pressure gradient leading to the stronger wind that is out there. This will continue to move toward the north and weaken, but it'll still be impacting our area over the next several hours. So the forecast today, what you see is what you get: windy rain squalls. Kind of gusty at times, but decreasing rains as we go through the afternoon hours. Improving weather is on the way. We'll talk more about that. We'll also talk more about the conditions you can expect for the next few hours coming up in just a few minutes. I'm going to send things over to Tim Ronca in the real-time traffic center. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of folks out there on the roads, but still some problems with the bridges, and it's just kind of tough to drive out there. So what do you advise for folks?
Good morning again, Josh. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's pretty much what we're seeing right now. Of course, we're well out of rush hour, and there really wasn't much of a rush hour in terms of usual traffic this morning because schools are out. A lot of folks are home because of the storm, and that is what's recommended right now. But we got a couple things going on. Here's a look at the south end of the Howard Franklin Bridge, the Pinellas County end. Got a crash here. Now it looks to be pretty minor. Earlier it was blocking a few lanes, but just generally slow traffic there coming off the bridge. You can see here on this camera that the conditions just aren't that great through that area. Over on our real-time traffic maps, you can actually see a bit of a delay, and that's really not because of a lot of traffic, just cars moving a little bit slower than they would be here as you make your way from Hillsborough into Pinellas. So something to keep in mind if you're heading out the door right now. In Pinellas County, there is a lot of rain right now, as you saw Josh just talk about. St. Pete Police has also been telling me there's quite a few spots that have traffic lights out right now. And so the advice from officials is always to treat it as a four-way stop. First person that arrives at the intersection can go first, and then from there you're able to continue navigating. So let's take a look here at the Skyway Bridge. This is the other big traffic story of the morning. It was shut down around 7 a.m. and FHP did so because sustained winds were tracked there at 50 miles per hour at the top of the bridge, and they will shut it down at 40 miles per hour. Right now, no indication of when it's going to reopen. I would expect that's going to be some time. We'll take a look at some updated conditions for you coming up in just a few minutes.
To the point already. A week.
Being a homeowner, it is the best feeling ever. I mean, working with Highlands Housing was a great experience. I have no regrets. It was a really smooth process, and the advice I would give to somebody that wants to own their own home, I would say go for it. It's worth every ounce of stress and time. Like in the end, I would recommend to do it.
What if you could feel in control of your retirement in just a few clicks? At aceyourretirement.org, you can. Start with a free 3-minute chat with Avo, your friendly digital retirement coach. Just answer some simple questions like, how do you feel about your ability to save for retirement? Or in how many years do you want to retire? To get free action items customized just for you, get your retirement back on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Making just one connection during recovery from mental and substance use disorders puts the strength of family and community behind you. We're all connected. Join the Voices for Recovery. Strengthen families and communities.
For confidential information on mental and substance use disorders, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human
Hiya, Queen of All Knowledge here, reminding you, creeps out there on the internet hack, scam, and trick savvy cyber users every day, but we can fight back. It's as easy as IC3. If you're a victim of online crime, don't give up. Visit IC3, the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. Your tips help the FBI track down cyber criminals around the world. Report your crime to www.ic3.gov today.
I'll be here to hear what's on your mind. Take this time to talk and get it right. You know I'll be there all your life. When you need me, I'll be by your side.
Little everyday conversations about the dangers of underage drinking can make a big difference in a child's life. Talk. They hear you.
Spectrum Bay News 9 is brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
We're continuing our coverage of Tropical Storm Nicole. Thanks so much for staying with us. That storm continues to bring heavy rain, heavy wind all across the state. And in Central Florida, it's not been great for the St. Johns River because it really made some progress there over the last few weeks.
Yeah, Hurricane Ian caused catastrophic flooding around that area in many cities. The river surrounding in Sanford, one of those cities. That's where we find Spectrum Bay News 9's Jesse Canals live from Lake Monroe. He's been following that story all morning, and he tells us that the St. Johns River there is seeing some water levels rising again. Jesse, tell us what the situation's like right now.
Well, guys, with the St. Johns River rising, that means the Lake Monroe is rising, and that water has spilled over into downtown Sanford. Take a look at this. This is Seminole Boulevard, and it almost looks like there's a lake itself here in downtown Sanford. This is a popular area right in front of the Sanford Pizza Company, a popular restaurant here in this area. And something you guys mentioned earlier was about the terrain being very soft because of Hurricane Ian and the constant rain it brought. Well, take a look across the street, how that grassy area spilled over because it's so soft from so much rain and even knocked down a tree with it. And this is something we're seeing all across this part of downtown Sanford and Seminole Boulevard. Much of it is flooded, and most people are finding alternate routes to get around some of their favorite spots. And we'll continue to monitor this area and see what happens as the rain continues. For now, reporting live in downtown Sanford, Jessica Nowlis, Spectrum Bay News 9.
All right, Jesse, thank you. And what's happening there is exactly the fears that people had leading into this storm.
Yeah, you mentioned it this morning, the saturation, the conditions there would make it easier for some of that vegetation to topple over with simple, strong winds. However, but, the water's still very wet and the line's very wet down there.
Yeah. Right now, we want to let you know that we're waiting for Governor Ron DeSantis to hold a news conference with an update on this storm. He'll be detailing how the state is responding to the storm. And we can expect to also hear a lot about the power outages across the state and the overall plan to fix the power outages from the West Coast to the East Coast, all up and down the coast. So we're going to bring you that live as soon as the governor takes the podium. So we wanted to let you know we are waiting for that to happen.
It'll be shortly. Right now, we want to give you a weather on the 9s check with meteorologist Josh Linker. Josh, where's the position of Nicole right now? We know it's in Pasco County. What is the impact?
Well, the center is in Pasco County, Roy, but Nicole, for all intents and purposes, is all out there. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a few minutes. I guess we'll send it back to you because the governor is about to speak.
Well, today, obviously, we are responding to Tropical Storm Nicole. As of 10 a.m., it was located roughly 50 miles west of Orlando, and it was moving west-northwest at 16 miles per hour. Nicole still a tropical storm with maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour. The storm made landfall overnight as a Category 1 hurricane just south of Vero Beach and is continuing to move through the state. The most recent track shows it exiting the Florida Peninsula into the Gulf of Mexico and then re-entering Florida in the Big Bend region. Now, the wind from the storm is still very large, and the impact stretched far beyond the center track, with much of the state already experiencing tropical storm force winds. Winds have been the main concern with Nicole, but we've also seen heavy rains that have resulted in 3 to 5 foot of storm surge in some areas. We've also seen potential flash flooding. Impacts have been basically what's been expected. You do have downed trees, you have power lines, you have some road washouts, combined winds and storm surge. We've seen beach erosion, especially in areas that had already seen erosion from Hurricane Ian. And these are places like Brevard, Volusia, Flagler, in St. Johns counties. After the storm, there will be likely be flooding in some areas, so make sure to avoid floodwaters as they may be down power lines and other hazards. This morning, more than 50 counties were under tropical storm warnings, and that number will continue to go down as the storm moves across the state. We're ready, and we have resources to respond to whatever post-storm needs may arise. And I declared a state of emergency on Monday for 34 counties so that they had ample time to prepare for the storm. This morning, as an abundance of caution, we've expanded that to all counties just simply because we're not sure the extent of the impacts in Northwest Florida in particular. Kevin and his team have been in constant communication with utility providers. We now have 333,000 accounts without power. That's 2.98% of the state, 23.3% out in Brevard, 16.6% in Indian River, and then Volusia, Seminole, Putnam, and Orange, all smaller percentages than that. But there are 17,000 linemen staged to immediately begin power restoration efforts as soon as it's safe to do so. And certainly as you get into places like the Martin, St. Lucie area, people have been working in those areas and will continue to go in as it's safe in other parts of the state. We had activated 600 National Guardsmen, have 7 urban search and rescue teams on standby, and ready to respond as soon soon as the weather clears. We also have FWC's high water vehicles ready to assist in response efforts should that be needed. We have 250 Florida Department of Transportation crews that are ready to deploy and begin damage assessment, bridge inspections, and cut and toss operations to clear roadways as is necessary. 61 school districts are closed for today. And of course, schools are closed tomorrow for Veterans Day. If you an updated list for that, you can go to FloridaFLDOE.org, FLDOE.org. I want to thank Kevin and everybody for working hard. This is obviously not as significant a storm as Hurricane Ian was, but coming on the heels of that, you're seeing communities, particularly in the Volusia County area, where you had a lot of that erosion on the coastline. This has put some of those structures in jeopardy, and they've been working very hard to make sure everybody's safe. So I want to thank everyone for their efforts there, and we'll hear from Kevin with further updates.
Thank you, Governor. I appreciate your involvement and appreciate your leadership in helping us to respond to this event. The men and women behind me get all the credit on that floor. They've been working for 48 days straight, and they continue to respond to what Floridians need most, and that is our help. Tropical storm conditions are ongoing across the Florida Peninsula and will expand into the Big Bend and eastern Panhandle this afternoon. There remains a risk for severe weather, including isolated tornadoes embedded within Nicole's outer rain bands. The latest one that we had was just about 2 hours ago in St. Johns County. If you get a weather alert for a tornado, stay in the most interior room of your home and protect your head and body from debris with either a blanket, sleeping bag mattress, or any type of helmet. Dangerous beach conditions will continue along the East Coast as a result of elevated tides and lingering wave heights of 8 to 16 feet along the Atlantic coast. Elevated tides, ocean swells, and strong winds will push water into the St. Johns River, leading to flooding along the river. The St. Johns River right now at Astor is back into major flood stage. This morning we do have Fish and Wildlife Commission boats on standby in the area, as well as urban search and rescue swift water teams to assist if there should be a need for a rescue. This storm is very large. Even if the eye has passed over your area, it may still be unsafe to go outside due to the heavy winds, flash flooding, and isolated tornadoes. If there are flash flood warnings in your area, remember it is never safe to walk or drive through flooded waters. I continue to urge Floridians to stay indoors in a safe structure and away from the coastline at this time. If you lose power, please use generators safely. We continue to have disaster deaths related to generators. Remember, keep those generators outside and 20 feet away from the house. Never operate those generators indoors. You must give a generator 20 minutes of cool down time before refueling. Avoid electrocution by keeping the generators dry. After the storm is gone, there will likely be large items of debris through impacted areas, especially along the coastline. Do not try to remove the large debris without assistance. There are volunteer groups that will be able to help you. Don't overexert yourself and put yourself into a risky situation. Additionally, do not touch or drive over down power lines or stay in areas of standing water. This can cause deadly electrocution. If you see exposed fiber optic lines or any wires for that matter, do not cut them. You can text, make a cell phone call, or use social media to report these lines that are exposed. The Florida Division of Emergency Management continues to coordinate with utility companies, as the governor has stated, to ensure crews are prepared to respond and restore power. Those crews are out now. They are moving up from the Palm Beach area into areas like Martin County and St. Lucie County to restore power. FDM liaisons have been deployed to support the following counties at their request: Orange County, Lake County, Seminole, Martin, Volusia, Brevard, Indian River, and St. Lucie. If you have questions about the status of the storm, please continue to contact our State Assistance Information Line or the SAIL line at 1-800-342-3557. For any more emergency information regarding Tropical Storm Nicole, all of that information is available on floridadisaster.org/Nicole. It's also available on the division's Facebook and on our Twitter page at FLSERT or at FLCERT. Thank you, Governor.
Okay. All right. Thanks. If we need any more updates, we'll be back.
All right, you just heard the latest from Governor Ron DeSantis and other emergency officials on this storm. They were giving some warnings about being careful using generators, taking cover if you do get a tornado alert in your area, and just not going outside until the storm fully passes through. Sometimes it can seem like things are better out there, but as our weather experts have been telling us, the wind, that's going to remain high throughout the day. So you just want to be careful throughout the day, even if it seems like conditions are getting better where you are.
And we've been talking about it all morning, the big concern on that St. Johns River.
Yeah.
In flood stage right now. FWC currently right now waiting around for any kind of rescues that they may have to do. We showed you a water rescue. Will Robinson-Smith was in Brevard County. That was showing you that live as it happened. So we know that the conditions out there are very poor. Make sure you stay indoors until everything gets cleared. So just past 10:29, so 10:30, and meteorologist Josh Linker with that weather update that we never got to, but now we get it. We're so blessed to have you here, Josh.
Well, I appreciate that, Roy, and good things come to those who wait. So we are looking at Clystron 9 to begin right now, and what we're seeing is an area of very heavy rain. Now, Nicole itself, the center, it looks like it's right about in northeast Pasco, but we're seeing another type of circulation, likely a mid-level circulation. And what this means is it's starting to transition to something that is taking on perhaps some more non-tropical characteristics, or perhaps interaction with land, and a trough of low pressure that's ultimately going to steer this is causing some nuance to what's going on here. And we're seeing a band of heavy rain setting up here in central Pasco County that has even put out a few lightning strikes, which by itself is pretty unusual in a tropical situation. That's why I believe we're starting to get something a little less tropical in there. And this is going to put out some rather heavy rain. We've already seen some pretty heavy rain totals across parts of Pasco, but this area, Pasco, Pinellas, Hillsborough, getting very heavy rainfall right now, along with some of that gusty wind. In fact, we'll take a look at the rainfall totals just in the last 6 hours. And this was the beginnings of that zone. This yellow shading is in excess of 2 inches of rain in the last 6 hours from Lake County across Sumter and then into eastern Pasco, northeastern Hillsborough. We're seeing some heavy totals. And then there was that other part in southern Pinellas. But I do believe this to fill in a little bit more now as some of that heavier rain is adding up. Wind gusts are still fairly impressive, gusting over 40 miles per hour. Still could see some gusts near 50, but the big wind threat not really a concern any longer. The direction of the wind is going to start to play a role as we approach high tide. Could see some water levels rise. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a few minutes, but now we're going to send things over to Tim Ronca, maybe, in the Real-Time Traffic Center for an update on, not Tim Ronca, maybe, it's just Tim Ronca, but we're going to send things out to him for an update on the roads out there. What's going on, Tim?
Josh, it's Tim Ronca dash maybe. That's how I like to spell it out.
Very important.
Thank you. And thanks for all your work there following the storm, of course. Good morning, everyone. Yes, so we're still following some incidents here in the traffic center here at 10:32. Here's a new one on 275 and West Shore Boulevard. This is right when you come off the Howard Franklin Bridge on the northbound side of 275, and crash looks to be pretty minor, thankfully, but you do have a couple of lanes blocked. And one of the reasons I want to show you this is you got a car turned around the other way there, and that's something that we've seen in a lot of these wrecks today, a lot of just spin outs and things like that because the road is so wet. So something you want to use some extra caution for if you're heading out on the roadways right now. Let's go over to the real-time traffic maps. I just got an update from St. Pete Police. So they're dealing with a lot of power outages right now. We have traffic lights out at several pretty busy intersections. So here's one, 34th Street and 30th Avenue North. In fact, St. Pete Police, they are on scene now directing traffic there because that one is a very busy one. A little further to the south on 34th Street South at 22nd Avenue South, we have one that is out there. And we also have one out 66th Street and 30th Avenue North right now. So 3 different spots, and that's what St. Pete Police told me about. There's a good chance there's a lot more of them out there right now. So certainly something you want to keep in mind. When you get to an intersection like this where the traffic lights are out, it's best you treat it like a 4-way stop if there is no law enforcement there to help guide you. And of course, the Skyway Bridge, I'll take another look there as to what that looks like right now. One of our real-time traffic cams provided by DOT. You can see it's that eerie sight of no one crossing the bridge right now. It's been shut down for almost 4 hours this morning, and you can see the conditions there just aren't that great either. Still, a lot of that wind and rain moving through the area, like you saw Josh mention. I'll continue to have updates for you here in the traffic center coming up in the next few minutes. I guess we're sending things back over now to Georgia and Roy.
All right, Tim, thank you. We'll check back in with you soon. Florida Space Coast was hit hard as this storm came in overnight. Things getting better there now, but they're dealing with the aftermath.
Yeah, and the strong winds, steady rain, it covered Brevard County all morning long. The Spectrum Bay News 9's Will Robinson Smith has been running up and down Brevard County. He's in Cocoa Village with a look at the conditions there.
We're in the middle of Cocoa Village in the city of Cocoa in Brevard County, just off of the Indian River. And right now, we're still experiencing a lot of winds. No clearer example of that than just to the right of that Cocoa police car at Lee Winter Park. You can see a number of boats that have washed against the wall of the park here and are just battering and banging against that seawall that's bracing against the edge of the park. Just one example of a number around the Space Coast that we've seen throughout this storm event, from when it was Hurricane Nicole, now Tropical Storm Nicole, and the winds continue to be relentless, causing a lot of power outages and down trees here in the city of Cocoa. There's one up a little farther north. We've heard about a large tree down blocking Main Road over on Merritt Island, and a number of power outages and impacts in places like Satellite Beach as well as Melbourne Beach. Want to point out something real quick. If we go back over here, you see that truck that was trying to go through, and the Cocoa police officer honked the horn saying, "Nuh-uh." And that's because we've seen a lot of people trying to get a lot of photos and, just sightsee. The types of things that emergency officials have been trying to stress is not the thing to do right now. Now is not the time to come out and take pictures. That time will come as we get past this storm event, when it's safer, when the winds and the rains die down. But for now, emergency officials are encouraging you and asking you to remain at home and ride this thing out. And there will be a time soon when you can go out and take a look at the impacts left behind by Nicole. Reporting on scene in Cocoa Village, Will Robinson Smith, Spectrum News.
Thanks, Will. And of course, the officials here in the Bay Area also want you to heed those warnings. Stay put until the weather clears.
Yeah, we've been talking about the importance of just trying to stay inside. Of course, some people have to go to work, and we have first responders, obviously, but the conditions just right now, it's best to stay inside if you're able to. If you do have to go out, just be careful, take it slow, especially on the roads. Now, ahead of this storm, what we saw in Daytona Beach was residents having to evacuate their homes, forced out ahead of the storm. This happened in Volusia County, where authorities said that there were numerous buildings that they believed had the potential to crumble, and that's because of some damage that those buildings sustained during Hurricane Ian.
Yeah, around 200 people had to leave their homes, and now hope best is when they come back to their safety of their homes. The Volusia County Sheriff warns residents are going to experience things worse as this storm goes through.
That storm surge is coming. It's going to get worse before it can get better. And if a building is declared structurally unsound, which is the result of Ian and not being able to fix it, people have to take seriously what we're doing. That's why there's a curfew in place. That's why we put a mandatory evacuation in place. That's why we're shutting the bridges down from anybody coming over to gawk. There is a strong potential that one or more buildings will collapse during this storm.
Earlier this week, 5 other buildings had already been evacuated because of structural issues caused by Hurricane Ian.
And the other thing that we've been seeing there, and we heard the governor talk about it during his news conference, is the erosion on the beach there. And they had already been dealing with that because of Hurricane Ian. So there were those buildings that were starting to crumble a little bit. They weren't safe. People had to get out. So that's something that they've been dealing with as well, the beach erosion, the high wind, and some flooding as well.
Yeah. Nicole, also impacting travel and your plans if you're trying to get out, flights out of Tampa International Airport, seeing delays and cancellations. You can see the amount of canceled flights so far at TPA. According to FlightAware, TPA has a total of several dozen cancellations and just under 20 delays.
And all across the country, more than 1,200 flights were canceled because of the storm. We expect that to grow because what we know when this happens, there's that domino effect. So we could see flights also impacted even into tomorrow, unfortunately, as these airlines try to catch up and get people where they need to go. So that's something to keep in mind if you're flying tonight, if you're flying tomorrow, even this weekend. Best that you check with your airline first, check with the airport that you're flying out of just to make sure that everything is on time before you get to the airport.
And we've been updating you all morning, but you can expect to get more information throughout your day on the impacts of Nicole on our website and on the Spectrum News app. Everyone can now stream the Spectrum Bay News 9 for free without a login, and this is while the storm is going through. We've got more team coverage throughout the day, and we'll check on those impacts from Nicole after she leaves and the aftermath and all that. So we'll have crews ready to go. We're right now reporting on all that.
Yeah, they're staged all across the area right now. But first, let's head back over to the Weather Center, check in live with meteorologist Josh Linker. So we're seeing this storm inch closer and closer and closer to being out in the Gulf. But right now, we're still getting those heavy bands in Pinellas County.
Yeah, and that's going to be the deal for a while, Georgia and Roy. We're going to be looking at some heavy rain. And it's really important to not really pay attention specifically from a storm and sensible weather standpoint exactly where the center is, because it's sort of getting a little bit ill-defined and elongated. And we also have a lot of heavy rain across the area, still some gusty wind. The only real important as to the specific position of the center will be when the wind becomes stronger onshore, and we're starting to see that. Have seen some heavy rain, and this is a picture that was sent to us through the Spectrum News app. We love getting these. This was sent to us from Reddington Beach from Grace, getting a little bit of some street flooding there. Now, at the beaches, the water drains out into the Gulf of Mexico and places like that. So we are starting to see a water level rise, so you get the heavy rain, and that could be a contributing factor to some flooding here. Could be that some storm drains are blocked by debris. Hard to tell, but that's why it's always very important to make sure those storm drains are free of debris as best you can to avoid the flooding in your neighborhood. Here's a shot for you from Sarah in Brooksville. She actually sent two photos of the same tree. One was from the other angle. I chose this one just because the lighting was a little bit better. Kyle Hansen helped me decide on that. But nonetheless, a good view out there with the tree down. There was quite a bit of other tree-type debris in this particular yard. And it doesn't take a lot to snap some trees, especially if they're already a little bit lopsided. You get some gusty winds. We've had some wind gusts near 60 miles per hour earlier today, along with the heavy rain. It wouldn't surprise me to see some more uprooting of trees, although the overall wind pattern has relaxed a little bit. Still some gusty winds in the 40-mile-per-hour range across the area. The center of Nicole appears to be somewhere over central Pasco. We're seeing a northwest wind in Brooksville, a southeast wind in Zephyr Hills, a northwest wind in Tampa. So somewhere in here, kind of elongated a little bit with this northeast wind coming in around Inverness. And we'll continue to see this moving out toward the west. But with that onshore wind starting to develop, some of the water levels have been coming up. So we'll take a look at that now. This is from Clearwater Beach, and right now we're seeing the water levels about 1.2 feet above the predicted tide. We're going to be heading toward high tide shortly. That comes up in about 2 hours for the Clearwater Beach time. And this is still, for perspective, lower than the previous high tide. This is a relatively low high tide. The next one is higher. That's later this evening. And hopefully by then, we'll be looking at the storm far enough away and the wind light enough that we may not have a huge problem. But we're still going to see some water level rise, I'd say, from northern Pinellas up through the Nature Coast to around the Big Bend. There could be some problems in that regard. Something we're going to be keeping an eye on for sure. We'll take a look at the big view here. Here is Nicole making its way across the state. Obviously plenty of clouds, but the heaviest rain is just on this western edge of the circulation right now. And we're showing that here on Klystra 9. This is central Pasco. Back across Tampa Bay, this yellow shading is where we have some pretty heavy rainfall at this time. Now, I'm going to be back. We're going to talk much more about the forecast for the days ahead. We'll hopefully get some more photos sent to us from our viewers through the Spectrum News app. We'll show those to you as well coming up in just a few minutes. But now we're going to send things over to Tim Ronka in the Real-Time Traffic Center with an update on the situation out there on the roads. And fortunately, not a lot of folks out there, but still some problems for sure. What's going on out there, Tim?
Hey again, Josh. Yeah, well, you said it. That's pretty much what we're seeing right now in a lot of different spots, especially where that rain is coming down pretty hard right now. We're going to take a look at 275 here in Tampa now. Even though traffic is relatively light with a lot of folks off the roads, we do have a lot of wrecks like this one out there. This car here, this black one, looks like it was turned around the other way. We've seen a couple like that around the area right now, and that can happen when you have a lot of wind and rain here that are on the roadways. So definitely give yourself extra time if you're heading out. Certainly use some extra precaution as well, because some of the conditions out there just aren't too good. Here's a look at 275 in Pinellas County now, one of our real-time traffic cams provided by DOT. We're looking right at Pinellas Point Drive, and this is right where you would enter the Skyway Bridge area on 275. And as you can see, we do have that shut down right now. Road rangers are on scene with their cones out. FHP is turning folks around, so you cannot go onto the Skyway Bridge right now. This also gives you a good idea of what conditions are like right now. A lot of wind, a lot of rain out there right now. You can see the camera moving around a lot in the wind and the rain. Let's go over to Pinellas County right now on our real-time traffic map. St. Pete Police confirming to me a few minutes ago several different intersections they are now responding to that have the traffic lights out. One's going to be 30th Avenue North and 34th Street. I do know that St. Pete Police is there. They have some cones out helping to direct some folks around that area. A little further to the south, 34th Street South and 22nd Avenue South, they also have reports of traffic lights out there. And St. Pete Police also responding to the intersection of 66th Street and 30th Avenue North. And these are just the ones that I know about right now. It's safe to say there's probably plenty of intersections around the Bay Area right now that are seeing traffic lights out due to some power outage issues. So best advice when you get to an intersection like that, officials always say, is to use it like a four-way stop. So first person who arrives can then go through the intersection and going on from there. We'll have an update on how conditions are looking for you coming up soon.
If you want to make the most of your vacation, there's no better place than the Bluegrass State. Kentucky's 45 state parks offer abundant places to play and diverse accommodations to stay. Take a hike, float your boat, or bike the trails. Pitch a tent under the stars or settle into a lakefront lodge. Tee up for 18 holes, then enjoy a signature meal. Even better, Kentucky residents receive special discounted rates. Plan your trip at parks.ky.gov.
Our son Arjun was born with cystic fibrosis, a rare disease that shortens lives. But there's something you can do to help. Join us as we walk in great strides the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation's National Walk. Every year, thousands of people lace up to raise money and awareness for CF. The CF Foundation has made amazing progress, but we're not done yet. The biggest reason I strive? Because I want Arjun to live a full and happy life. Visit cff.org and sign up for a Great Strides Walk today. Lace up, walk, cure cystic fibrosis.
My advice to all the fathers out there, they grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me something. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, no thanks, not my thing.
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Olivia was a free-spirited, very sensitive little girl. She became ill. They revealed a mass on her brainstem. She herniated on the brain and died. Immediately, I started thinking about organ donation.
Her daughter is alive through my son, so that's keeping love alive.
I can feel your heart beating. Oh my goodness. This little boy is running, playing because of my little girl, and I'm so grateful for that.
For more information on pediatric organ donation, go to lanethomas.org.
The Florida Department of Health issued several alerts for Manatee County beaches for traces of red tide. Bayfront Park and Coquina Beach South, as well as Rod and Reel Pier, are the areas showing the highest concentration of red tide. The alerts issued after FWC took samples along southwest Florida beaches and other areas impacted by Hurricane Ian. On the FWC website, you can see a full breakdown of what areas are affected the most and also a map of all tested waters. FWC and the Department of Health advise you to use caution if you are in these areas and to be observant of the water around you. Coming up next on Spectrum Bay News 9, we go inside the candle pour here in Tampa and dive into the world of candle making. That story in our Florida on a Tankful when we come back.
We're coming up on 10:49. I'm meteorologist Josh Linker. Thanks for staying with us here for Weather on the Nines, continuing to monitor Tropical Storm Nicole across our area with several weather hazards or facets of it that are causing some problems for us, one of which is the rainfall. Some spots have picked up some really heavy rain, so when we look at the rain thus far, between 2 and 3 inches, Loman, Dade City, Hernando, Davenport, Lakeland, a lot of our interior sections got a big band of rain earlier this morning, and we're still seeing some heavy rain across portions of the area. In fact, we'll take a look at what's going on right now on Clystron 9, and the circulation center appears to be right over Pasco County, maybe southern Hernando, and on the southwest side of it, there's continues to be this very heavy rainfall with more heavy rain kind of swinging in from the Gulf. So as the low pressure area moves out toward the west, we'll continue across parts of the immediate Tampa Bay area with some additional heavy rainfall that will be expected as we go through the next few hours. The other element that we are watching is the wind, and it has come down a little bit overall. Still seeing some rather gusty conditions over 40 miles per hour. Lake Wales, a gust of 45, Winter Haven at 46, Tampa, recent gust of 43, and we'll continue with the gusts at these levels as we go through the next 4 hours, several hours rather. Eventually, as the low pulls out into the Gulf of Mexico and kind of goes a little bit farther away, we will diminish those wind gusts a little bit. But the concern then becomes with an onshore component to the wind to raise the water levels a little bit. Now, right now, what we're looking at is a chart. This is Clearwater Beach water levels. The blue is the predicted tides. We're coming up to high tide right now, and we're running about 1.5 feet above that prediction, but we're just about at the water level, which was the last normal high tide. So this particular high tide that we're coming to is unusually low, or just say like a relative high tide. Then there'll be a dip, and then the next high tide is more impressive. However, by then, several hours from now, those water levels may not be as big of a concern. So it might time out perfectly that the worst onshore component would be as we're heading back toward a low tide. I do expect to still see some water level rises out there as we go through this afternoon. Something we'll keep a close eye on for you. Temperatures may get into the 70s today, low to mid 70s with those gusty squalls that will be in place through the afternoon. And here we go. We have a 7-day forecast for you. Rain chance. Yeah, that's it today. And then a few lingering showers tomorrow. Some could be heavy actually tomorrow. Then Saturday, maybe a stray shower, but some cooler weather. Although now it's not looking like the air mass coming in for Sunday and Monday will be quite as cool as what we thought a couple days ago, but definitely a nice stretch of weather to begin next week. We'll talk more about Nicole on our area coming up at the top of the hour, but for now we'll send things over to Tim Ronca. He is in the real-time traffic center. And where is the traffic on the Skyway, Tim? I don't understand. What's going on?
Anything big going on?
I'm not sure.
Anything happening? No, I know you appreciate a good Skyway bridge.
It's a good one,
Josh, so I want to have this up for you. Unfortunately, not as pretty as it sometimes is in the early morning hours. Good morning once again, everyone. What we're seeing here is what Josh pointed out, no traffic because the Skyway bridge is closed. It was shut down this morning by FHP around 7 o'clock, and they did that when they had 50-mile-per-hour winds sustained here at the top of the bridge. Typically, they will decide to shut it down around 40-mile-per-hour winds. So we'll see. It probably is going to be some time until it's opened back up. I-75 is going to be your best alternate to get around that one if you need to go between Manatee and Pinellas counties, and we know that that is a pretty big inconvenience right now. On our real-time traffic maps, we're not really worried about delays that much right now, but I do want to point one out for you, and that's going to be 275 northbound here in the West Shore Boulevard and Lois Avenue area. I have a shot of what that looks like here from one of our real-time traffic cams, and actually it looks like the crash has finally cleared off the roadway now, so that delay will probably not last much longer. But you can see we do have one car that's turned around the opposite direction there on the shoulder, another car on the opposite shoulder as well. And that's sort of what we're seeing in a lot of different spots right now. Some minor crashes and some fender benders due to all of the issues like this that are out there in terms of the rain and wind and stuff like that. Here's a look in Manatee County right now. This is I-75. Take a look at how much that camera's bouncing up and down. This is going to be right to the north of US 301, actually kind of closer to the southern apex there at 275. We do have one lane blocked due to this crash, and we do have some emergency responders on scene too. But you can see that there's just a lot of wind and rain in that area. So certainly use caution. Give yourself extra time if you're heading out. That's certainly what officials are recommending we pass along to you. I'll have an update for you coming up in the next hour on current conditions.
Attractions Insider.
I am what child hunger looks like in America. I am a 9-year-old boy who hopes a friend invites me to a sleepover so I can have dinner. I am a 15-year-old girl who goes for walks during lunch so my friends won't know I don't have anything to eat. I was created by artificial intelligence from faces of the 1 in 7 American children who struggle with hunger.
Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
You know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
Yeah, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, anything, you need to tell an adult, someone you know and trust. That can be hard, but speaking up about a problem is what helping a friend is all about.
Making just one connection during recovery from mental and substance use disorders puts the strength of family and community behind you. We're all connected. Join the Voices for Recovery. Strengthen families and communities.
For confidential information on mental and substance use disorders, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
We are Lions. We bring hope where it's needed. Support causes that matter. Change lives. Change communities. Change the world. Visit lionsclubs.org to learn more.
National Prevention Week is a celebration of all the things that happen all year long.
Prevention is at the core. It's mental health, physical health.
Some of our National Prevention Week activities have been focusing on the illegal drugs, illegal use of opioids.
Drugs, alcohol, mental health, suicide, underage drinking, tobacco use. Prevention is about saving lives.
This is where it happens.
This is Prevention at Work.
How are we doing, folks? I'm Kenny Morales. Here's a look at your Sports Minute. The Buccaneers getting ready to set sail and face the first-place Seahawks in Munich, Germany this Sunday. Tampa Bay hasn't had much luck in international games, 0-3 outside the U.S. Different story for Tom Brady, though. The GOAT, a perfect 3-0 in international games. Bucs are going to have to make a lot of adjustments with the long flight, the time change, but head coach Todd Bowles says at the end of the day, it's still just football.
Be no different if we had to fly to Seattle. That's a long flight too, so it would be maybe another hour more at tops. But the time change you just have to deal with. We understand that going over. We'll be excited to play. We'll be ready to play.
You know, anytime we can, get a win, it's huge. But, to be able to do it over in Germany, a place I think we'll be the first team to play over there. So, it'll be pretty cool and, come back with a win.
Coming up tonight on Spectrum Sports 360, the East Lake football team is entering the postseason on a 9-game win streak. Now, the Eagles have managed to prove their doubters wrong this season. Catch that story tonight, 10:30, right here on Spectrum Bay News 9.
Here's a look at what's happening in our community. Brought to you by Brandon Ford. Find the biggest selection at the world's largest volume Ford truck dealer.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for youth.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals into your body.
And nicotine.
At Baptist Health, we want you to know the facts. Visit BaptistHealthDocs.com to view a video of Dr. Punita Denza on family care in Frankfurt. Baptist Health Lexington. Be a healthier you.